Bases dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It is a Wednesday. It's a Wall Pass Wednesday, so we'll take some questions second hour of the show, whatever's on your mind. Champions League is on a lot of people's minds, whether it's Liverpool and Villarreal today from Anfield or yesterday's absurdity of a match in Manchester, and we'll talk a lot about that. Also, Champions League's on people's minds in Concacaf. The Conca Champions, first leg of the final tonight in Mexico City, 10:30 kick Eastern time, 9:30 kick local. So, I mean, I don't know, just late night partiness in Concacaf. We'll get ready for that with Pumas hosting the Seattle Sounders. Also, we've got Copa Libertadores. Boca fans joining the moron section of the fan base. Not all of them, just one in particular. He gets arrested in Brazil for making racist gestures. It's bad enough when you're an idiot and you make racist gestures in your home stadium. You do it on the road? Yeah, it's not going to end well for you. He might be in Brazilian jail for a long time. Good job, buddy. Good job. Boca's got their own problems on the field where they might be in search of a new manager very, very soon. The Battaglia thing just keeps on drifting along, and they might be behind Club Always Ready by the end of the night when you talk about the table in Libertadores, and then they got to go to Bolivia next time in Libertadores, and that's not an easy place to play. So we got lots of things to talk about. Mike Conti will join us at 10 o'clock. We'll talk about the latest addition to the Atlanta United injury list. Not a surprise. We talked about it Monday. George Campbell obviously did something to his lower body slash adductor slash groin injury day to day. Hopefully it's something that he is back very soon. But yeah, it didn't look good at the end of that match. He did leave a mark on Gonzalo Higuain, who has a thigh contusion because of that challenge. Thought Gonzalo was maybe milking everything at the end of the match to waste time, as he should with the 2-1 lead. But he actually has a thigh contusion. George Campbell, pretty heavy collision there. So Higuain is back on the injury list for Miami because of that. All kinds of stuff in MLS, all kinds of stuff worldwide. We'll get into all of it. Jarrett Smith is hanging out with us for at least the first hour. Correct, Jarrett?
Correct.
Okay. John Nelson is always with us. He's trying to find a mute button.
That is true. I did. So correct. Yes.
Good job.
Yes.
I want to start with what I thought was the funniest thing about yesterday in Manchester City and Real Madrid and this wonderful match that we saw and experienced. And it's you need life after whatever hard times, crazy games, whatever. Watch this game. It's amazing. Funniest thing in it is Peter Schmeichel afterwards interviewing Pep Guardiola for CBS for Paramount Plus, and Pep is just like basking in the glow of this match. And yes, his team made some mistakes, and yes, they should have won by more, and all of those things are true. But Pep is just grinning after experiencing this match, and Schmeichel's like, but aren't you worried about this? But and Pep's like, what? What? Like it's just so funny to see his reaction and to hear like some of the commentary around it. But there were so many mistakes. But there was this. But there was that. But it should have been like this. But it should have. It's a 4-3 first leg of a Champions League semifinal that had brilliant goals all the way around. And don't leave Benzema's Panenka to make it 4-3 at the end out of the amazing goal conversation. Because, man, the steal to do that one. Whew.
From a guy who missed 2 penalties recently.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was an amazing night. It's not perfect because that's not how this game is. It was amazing. And Manchester City kept coming back. You know, they ran out of time to come back one more time, but they kept coming back to add more to it. They're going to wish, obviously, that they had a bigger lead going back to Madrid. Madrid's going to wish that they didn't make some of the defensive mistakes they did. Of course, both teams have wishes that they play the perfect game here. but it doesn't happen very often. This was an amazing display on both sides of so many different things. And it's why we love the game. I hope. I was thoroughly enthralled, and just whether it's Kevin De Bruyne's passes that are just oof. Benzema with the Panenka, whether it's Vinicius nutmegging a defender without even touching the ball, and Pep Guardiola like falls to his knees when he sees it because he knows what's about to happen. Just so many brilliant plays in this. For your first reaction to be, but the mistake, but this was a mistake, but all these mistakes. Man, y'all got to walk in the flowers and the sunshine more often if that's the first reaction to that game. That game is why we're football fans, why we're soccer fans, I think. It's why I am. It's why I love this game, because both teams just beautiful and amazing, and yes, chaotic, and yes, sometimes not perfect, as it's life, right? I was thoroughly enthralled. I can't wait for the second leg, which won't be like that. Second leg will be different because it's 90 minutes to go rather than 180, and now they've seen each other once, and you're going to see reactions to it. And it's going to be cagier because everybody knows what's coming at the end of it. You won't see this kind of a match in Liverpool today. It won't happen. Unai Emery will not allow that to happen with the way he's going to play it. But like, this was enjoyable for me, and the first thing I thought about was not mistakes. It was, wow, thank you for giving us that performance.
I mean, CBS Sports Network rebroadcast the match last night. And as I was buzzing through channels, I saw that the rebroadcast was up, and I was locked in again, because there were things that I think that because of all of the chaos and all of the back and forth and all of the brilliance and all of the individual moments, sometimes you'll sit there and pick something up the second time that you missed the first time because you were so enthralled because of what you were watching the first time as it was passing in front of you.
Well, you missed out on the South American action last night, John. That's on
true.
You.
Yes, I did.
You already watched it once. You should have skipped on over to Independiente del Valle or Boca or, so many different.
Well, IDV was in our picks of the week, correct?
Yeah, but you didn't watch it, so it doesn't really matter, does it?
No, it doesn't. No, I'll go back and look at the score.
You watched the replay.
Oh, I watched a replay because I was so locked in the first time. You want to see something like that.
Yes.
That was instant classic material, and you sit there and you want to get locked in again because
I can't on a night like that, because I was bouncing around from Estudiantes and Vélez and all the different games in South America. That's what's so hard when you start paying attention to all of it, because
Jesus, that was such a better choice than watching the Hawks.
Yeah. I kind of had a bad feeling about that. So yes. It's not basketball down here. We don't do that show right now. It's on hiatus until next season.
Huh?
Next season.
Oh, no, yeah, we're taking a break. Mike Conti is free of the Hawks, so we will not be doing that.
Yes. We don't have to bring ourselves down with the Hawks. Thank you, Jarrett. It's not mistakes that Jarrett wants to talk about. It's the Hawks.
He's the Peter Schmeichel of the show.
Oh,
good job,
Jesus, that's rude.
You're tall.
Well,
you're not Danish.
We've been over this. When I played in pickup in high school with friends, as the only native English speaker, I was just called Peter for Peter Crouch. I don't actually know if they knew my real name.
Probably not.
Not that I cared.
No.
That was fine.
Did you ever have a flat top like Peter Schmeichel?
No.
Okay. Well,
God,
you can't be Peter Schmeichel.
My head was. I didn't have much hair at all, because our baseball coach was very much like Mr. Burns in the Homer at the Bat episode of Matting Lee Shave Those Sideburns. I told you to get rid of those sideburns. Like, it was.
Jared, I told you to shave the sideburns, sir. What are you doing?
Yeah, it was very much cut your hair all the time. Don't have hair to deal with. So it was very annoying. That being said, yes, it was. Yesterday was dumb, beautiful fun, and it had so many different weird feelings throughout the game. And it's one of my favorite things about games like that, where it felt like in the first half, it was so close to being, a situation where you're like, oh, Man City could make this 4-0 by halftime, and then if that's the case, we're pretty much done here. But they didn't, and then Real Madrid crawls back into it because Benzema is just on one in a way that most human beings will never be on one. He ended up with 2 goals in that game. If he had gotten a third, and if he gets 3 in the next game, which I doubt will happen, he would have hat tricks in 3 straight rounds of the Champions League, which would be one of the most absurd video game things imaginable. But the tenor of that game and the kind of the vibe of it just felt like it changed so many times in a fun way. Like it felt like, man, City's going to regret not killing this thing off in the first half. Oh, this is chaotic. Oh God, this is fun. Oh, sure, Panenka from a guy who's been unsteady from the spot. Why not? Huge moment like that really gives his team a lifeline. He's missed his last few penalty kicks. What's he going to do? Oh, he's going to chip it and damn near catch the bottom of the crossbar in the process and almost goes full Zidane. There's something about these Algerian-born French strikers that just give zero damns.
That's your Ballon d'Or winner right there, Karim Benzema. No question about that anymore. There shouldn't have been really one coming into this, but no, it can't be one anymore. Kevin De Bruyne has been as good as you can be and not be the Ballon d'Or winner. He's just absurd. You had so many things in this. You had 6 big chances, according to Opta. I don't see many games with 6 big chances. You had 23 chances created between the two teams. What I loved about it is neither team went away from who they were when things happened. You know, Manchester City kept trying to score 10, and Real Madrid kept trying to look for those opportunities going the other way on the break. It's just great to see two teams commit that way. I'm kind of like Pep, though, in Jarrett, what you said about, you get 4 and then you probably think it's over. I don't know if anything's over against this Real Madrid team. We've talked about it before. They've got so much experience. They've got so many killers in this team. If they went down 4-0 in the first half, I don't think they think it's over. And I don't think you can count them out. It's unbelievable. And they've got the right manager for that group in Carlo Ancelotti, who is, some people, I guess, are now trying to make the argument that he's a bad tactician or he doesn't know anything about tactics. Stop, leave it alone. You're embarrassing yourself. Don't do that. Carlo's the right guy for that group because he knows they don't need somebody on top of them screaming at them and gesticulating and pointing this and pointing that and demanding they do this and this and this every time they're on the field. No. These guys know what they're doing. You can go tell Luka Modric how to play the midfield? Nah. You can go tell Benzema, how to be a forward? Nah. Like, you don't need to. They know what they're doing. Can they be better at it at times? Yeah. They have these crazy things in this tournament where they just make life difficult for themselves. They choose the hard road every time. They kind of like it, though. It's amazing. And the second leg will be brilliant in a very different way, I think. I don't think it's going to be 4-3, but I think it will be edge of your seat kind of stuff.
Just depends on how it shakes out early. I mean, if
it's 4-3,
right.
like both teams are going to need to check into the hospital and need oxygen afterwards.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't think they can live that again.
But that's the thing. If that game starts off with, whether it's a defensive error, whether it's a moment of individual brilliance, that game starts off with like a goal in the 5th minute from either team, it very much feels like it could have a, well, here we go again kind of feel to it.
It won't happen if Madrid gets the first one, because then I think everybody wakes up to the, oh, crap, here we go. If City gets the first one, yeah, maybe. I don't see it. I think both teams will be a little bit cagier in the second game, but I would love it again. I would love to see it again. It was amazing. Again, you won't get that today. You have two very different kinds of teams today with Liverpool and Villarreal. Now, a couple of things coming into this. No player or the manager for Villarreal has ever won at Anfield. Ever. You got 8 players, and you've got Unai Emery, who have been involved in matches at Anfield. They've never won there. However, you go back in time a little bit on Unai Emery. Unai Emery beat Liverpool in the Europa League final with Sevilla. Didn't beat him with Arsenal. Beat him with Sevilla in the Europa League final. And I think the piece was in The Guardian, a really good look back at kind of that being the jump-off point for this Liverpool run that they have been on under Jurgen Klopp. And that was where they kind of came together. It was in his first year. They lose in the Europa League final. They kind of rallied the troops after that. Really good piece over at The Guardian. A couple of things about this game. Villarreal have not managed to win any of their last 8 away games in England, but they got 3 draws in it. And they get a draw today, they are ecstatic. They're going to be organized defensively. We know that. Will this be high scoring? I don't think so. But Unai Emery's games with that Sevilla game, with 4 times with Arsenal against Liverpool, they have been high scoring. Liverpool has been able to figure out how to get goals on Unai Emery's teams. I think this is maybe his best team that he's had in that run. So I'm not expecting it to be high scoring. If it is, I do think it's probably Liverpool who's feeling incredibly good about themselves at the end of it. What are the odds on this right now with Liverpool and Villarreal, John?
Let's see. I know that Liverpool was north of minus 200 at one point. Let me see if that has gone up any. Liverpool right now, yeah, wow. Liverpool has gone up in the composite for entertainment purposes only to a minus 286. Your draws a plus 446 and Villarreal's a plus 873. This one started out with Liverpool just north of minus 200. Now it is at minus 286 in the composite.
I mean, I can see Liverpool winning. I don't think they win big. I think the second leg will be very, very meaningful here, and it's in Spain. That's a big advantage for Villarreal. One thing to keep in mind about Unai Emery, and John has finally made his formal apologies to Unai Emery.
Yes, he has.
Since the start of the 2009-2010 season, that was the first Europa League campaign. In knockout ties in Europa League and Champions League for Unai Emery, he has progressed out of 37 of them 31 times, 84%. That is the second best ratio of any manager who's taken charge of at least 10 ties. Better than Klopp, better than Guardiola, better than Ancelotti. The only one who's better than him is Zinedine Zidane, 14 out of 16. He knows how to handle these things. We'll see what he can do to frustrate Liverpool. Because that's the way we think this plays out, right, Jared? Villarreal comes in and they want to make it difficult for Liverpool to do what they do today. He wants to bottle up Mo Salah and the rest of this high-powered attack.
Yeah, you want to bottle them up. You want to frustrate them. How much do you get into? Oh God, let's have this conversation without it being a criticism. How much do you get into kind of the mind games and potentially dark arts of, this game gets a little cagey in the middle of it, and if you're able to keep Liverpool out for the first 30 minutes or so, that'd be great. If you're Villarreal, that's what you want. You want it to get deeper in the game, because we talk about this with those kinds of games where, the longer it stays at 0-0, the more confident the road team is going to be, the more comfortable they're going to be, the more eager that home team gets. Maybe they step out a little bit faster. Maybe someone gets a little sloppy trying to make something happen. And then on the other side of that, if you're Villarreal, you get a situation where they're trying to make something happen. Well, what if we get there a half second late and lay a hit on Mo Salah as he's playing a pass? Or, we take our time doing something where we stand over the free kick and you try and get inside Liverpool's head and try and get them flustered to see if they react, to see if they quit focusing on breaking you down and start focusing on trying to break you.
I'm already seeing some people bringing up a very memorable, not positive memories, but a very memorable thing that happened in Liverpool history 8 days ago on this day in Premier League play, when Liverpool was hosting Chelsea and Liverpool was preparing to win the title, and Stevie G slipped. It was 8 years ago today that happened. Of course, Villarreal fans are probably going to have all the memes about that one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oof. That's bad memories. Unai Emery and knockout ties is what concerns me here. And Liverpool has to look at this over the 180 to me. I think they're in for a real fight. And Villarreal is not the pushover that maybe people have suggested that they are. How does Liverpool get it done in your mind, John?
Oh, boy. I mean, I've been specifically looking at it from the Villarreal perspective since
then how does Villarreal get it done?
I mean, Villarreal frustrates the ever-living crap out of Liverpool for 90 minutes. And I think that they have the game plan and the defensive wherewithal to do it. I think that it's just a disciplined effort over looking at it over the 180 minutes, frustrating Liverpool as much as possible and making it incredibly difficult for them to complete the supply lines, to make sure that they can get those opportunities. So Mo Salah can't have those moments of brilliance that you're looking for. I think that what you're looking to do is frustrate them in this first 90, get home, where right now Liverpool's only a minus 135. I know that we're talking about something 6 days from now, but complete and total frustration to where, and we've seen where if Liverpool isn't able to breathe, and I mean that in the offensive sense, if they don't get the chances that they're looking for, they do get frustrated. They will try to press a little bit. And so I think that the defensive discipline for Villarreal here, I think, is going to be key. Jarrett talked about that first 30. You're disciplined in that first 30, then get to halftime. Be disciplined in that next 30, then get to the end. That's 90 minutes done. You get home. So I think that it's staying within yourselves defensively if you're Villarreal today and not letting the game get away from you where you're having to chase it.
One thing that's interesting going into these second legs is what they have in league play this weekend. You look over at La Liga, and Real Madrid is hosting Espanyol, who's in 13th. Real Madrid probably going to win the league title this weekend. They're in completely fine shape with 78 points to Espanyol's 39 points. Yeah, they can probably walk through that one and get ready for the midweek second leg. Villarreal goes to Alaves, who is in last. They're in 20th. 52 points for Villarreal. They're in 7th right now. Alaves is on 25 points, getting relegated. You can probably walk through that, even if you're Villarreal and you are looking at European spots in the table. Maybe it's a little bit harder for you to walk through that as you try to climb higher. But what's more important, getting into a Europa League spot versus a Conference League spot or advancing to the Champions League final? Yeah, they'll punt if they have to. On the flip side, in the Premier League, first, we know the situation with Liverpool and Manchester City. It's basically, can you top this between them? Liverpool goes to Newcastle, who has been on a 4-game win streak right now. They're on a heater. They're in 9th, all the way up to 9th. That's not going to be easy. And Manchester City, they're facing a team lower in the table in Leeds, but Leeds is Leeds. And it's not Marcelo Bielsa Leeds anymore. It's Jesse Marsch Leeds. But we know what that style does to you. No matter who you put on the field, if you're Manchester City, you're going to be drained at the end of that trip to Leeds. Even if you come out winners on it, you're going to have to, because you'll know at that point what Liverpool did against Newcastle. They play at 7:30 Eastern time. Manchester City's at Leeds at 12:30. You're in for it. You're going to suffer in that game. Jesse Marsch has taken Leeds to, and it's funny to see some of the Leeds people who got behind Bielsa and started to understand the style, and now they're getting introduced to Red Bull ball, where it's like Leeds under Bielsa, they did want possession. They did press like maniacs, but when they got the ball, they wanted to keep it and knock it around, and they tried to pass. Jesse Marsch Leeds, passing's under 70%. They don't care about having the ball. It's about the press first and then going to goal as quickly as possible. That's going to be difficult for City. So you look at these second legs for Liverpool and City, they're just dealing with more pressure. They've got tougher matchups. They've got, a very tricky one if you're City with Leeds. They've got the pressure of trying to win the title. Real Madrid and Villarreal, they're not going to take the weekend off, but they can breathe a little bit more here. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. What we got on the Twitch pitch about Champions League, John?
A lot of folks who are really, they're saying never underestimate Villarreal. I think you've got the camp that says don't underestimate Villarreal, and then you have the camp that sits there and says you look at the front four for Liverpool, and it's going to be, Liverpool dominant. I mean, literally, you've got 50-50 on the Twitch pitch about folks going back and forth about, well, don't forget about this guy. Well, don't forget about this guy. Well, Mo Salah and Sadio Mane and Thiago and Liverpool are going to be doing this. And then you've got the folks who are looking at, literally it's a 50-50 discussion about what's going on, about not underestimating your opponent today specifically.
Well, you can't underestimate anybody in the semifinals of the Champions League, and Jurgen Klopp's not going to do that, and fans should not do that, but fans are in a different perspective than coaches and players. If you're underestimating Villarreal at this point and you're in a Liverpool shirt or polo, you are as foolish as it gets. This is a team that went to Bayern and nobody gave them a chance to go win in Germany in advance. They got the draw they needed after the 1-0 win. Nobody thought that would happen. This is a very good defensive team in Villarreal. They are going to make it difficult, and they've got some players who can hurt you going the other way when they do get those opportunities. I think they're going to make this game very difficult, and they're going to be very different defensively than Real Madrid was against City. So I don't think by any stretch it's easy. And again, I can't warn you enough if you're a Liverpool fan thinking, you can just walk through this and dance through the tulips and all that stuff. No, it ain't happening. It ain't happening. It's going to be difficult. And I don't think you can count Villarreal out until the final whistle of the second leg. I really don't think you can. You don't get this far if you can't play at this level. You just don't. And Unai Emery is a very good tactician. He's a different one than Pep, than Klopp. Carlo is far more of a chameleon in this, and he'll match what suits his team. Pep and Klopp want to be the protagonist. They want to be the one who is proactive in the match. Unai Emery is much more reactive. He's going to be the one to look to counter. He's going to be the one to, have a plan to take away what you do and then try to hurt you. He's not going to carry the match with Villarreal. Doesn't mean he can't win the match. So it's going to be a fun one. It's a different one. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to see what Unai Emery dials up here. Really looking forward to it. Let's move over to another Champions League, this time in Concacaf, because we got Pumas hosting Seattle Sounders tonight. First leg of the final. Sounds like Gianni Infantino of FIFA is going to be there for both legs. Probably doing some World Cup 2026 business as well while he is in this region. But Pumas hosting Seattle at the Estadio Olímpico Universitario in Mexico City. It is sold out. Neither team has been to the final in the Champions League since it was rebranded in 2008. Pumas won the Champions Cup 3 times in the 80s. They were in the final of the Champions Cup in 2005, and they lost to Saprissa. They are right now, at least they trained yesterday, without Juan Dineno, who is their leading scorer in CONCACAF play. They also trained without Leonel Lopez, who has been their best player, according to SofaScore, in Liga MX play. They are missing their center back, Arturo Ortiz, who was red carded in the semifinal. He's going to miss the first leg. You're looking at a Pumas team that is not complete right now. Seattle, actually pretty healthy for one of the first times this year. Guys for Pumas to watch tonight, right back, Alan Mosso. 4 assists in CCL play, gets forward really well down the right. Rogerio, 31-year-old Brazilian forward. He's probably the focal point up top. He's come off the bench half the time in CCL, but he's got a goal and 3 assists in 6 games. And don't forget about Bofo Salcedo, the former RSL guy on the wing. He's played 12 times, 9 starts, 2 assists in the Liga MX Clausura. He's played in 3 games in CONCACAF Champions League. He might get pushed into action here in CCL with these absences, or maybe he comes off the bench and he's that lightning rod for Pumas coming off the bench. For Seattle, you're looking at guys who have been here for a minute. Garth Lagerwey has dealt with danger in CCL before. He was the GM at RSL when they had their chance to win the CONCACAF Champions League in 2011. They got a 2-2 draw on the road in the first leg in Monterrey, and then they lost in the second leg 1-0 at Rio Tinto. It was one of the most gut-wrenching games an MLS team's ever played in the tournament. Humberto Suazo, 20 seconds before the end of the first half, got the goal. It ends up being enough for Monterrey as they held on and held on and held on to get through it. But Seattle is a very veteran-laden team. You've got game changers in Nico Ladero, in Albert Rusnak, in Raul Ruidiaz. You got guys who can make everything fit together, like a Christian Roldan, like a Joao Paulo. You've got a good defense. You've got a goalkeeper who can win you games in Stefan Fry. Jarrett, is Seattle the favorite coming into this final?
Over 180 minutes, I want to say yes.
Why don't you say yes?
Just you got to manage the first leg. We've seen teams go in and it's fresh in my mind what Atlanta did with Frank de Boer in 2019, where you go on the road in Mexico and you got to manage that first leg, and you didn't manage the last 15 minutes of it and took it from manageable to a very large mountain to climb. I'll feel a lot better if they come out of Mexico in good shape. Take that however you want, but you got to manage
not
that.
Making them the favorite in the final. I'm not talking about tonight. I'm talking about the final, the whole thing.
In the whole final, I'm leaning towards kind of a push on it. I'm leaning Seattle, but I'm not 100% sold on it because it's going to be tough. I do like having a guy like Nico Ladero who can, if anybody on that field is comfortable with, we want to play dark and dirty. Okay, yeah, sure. Oh, you mean it's a day that ends in Y? Hell yeah, let's do it. He is more than happy to marshal that line and to do that and to go into Mexico and fight fire with fire.
I don't think that's the storyline of this, though. I don't think dark arts are the number.
I don't
one
think
thing
they are
here,
either, but Seattle's equipped to do it.
Yeah. I mean, Seattle, and it's not because they can do dark arts. It's because they got a veteran team, in my opinion, and they got a manager like Brian Schmetzer who doesn't get too rankled about anything, really. So that's going to help them in this situation. The 2019 Atlanta United team versus the Seattle team, in terms of veterans and in terms of managing games on the road, I think it's night and day. So I don't think that factors into it. You're like a lot of people, Jarrett, and I mean, you're not the only one. I disagree with you. I think Seattle is the favorite, and they should be the favorite, and I think they should embrace being the favorite. But the reason why people don't want to give them that status is because of MLS's history in the tournament. And I understand that. I totally understand that. It's hasn't been very good.
We've seen it in this tournament already with a New England team that we thought was mature and mentally sound enough to handle a 3-0 lead at home.
Yeah.
Or 3-1 lead at home.
We have.
And I think that is why you're seeing a lot of that apprehension. It's just tough.
Of course. But if you're scared, get a dog. You've got to grow up at some point. And this is the hardest thing for these kinds of teams. And we see this all over the world, by the way. I mean, this happens when you've got, teams from not Argentina or not Brazil in a big Libertadores semifinal or final, or, just a big match in the group stage. All those ghosts start coming back of, RSL, Humberto Suazo, he ruined your day. Oh, remember Montreal? They got close. Oh, remember Toronto? They got close. Oh, those ghosts start popping back up. Like, oh, New England this year. It happens. And the way you change that is you win. You build a team that can win. And I think Garth Lagerwey and Brian Schmetzer in Seattle built a team that can win the Concacaf Champions League. Now, as we talked about coming in, has it been a little fortunate the way things have fallen? Yeah, of course. They get Pumas, who I think was not the best Mexican team at this stage coming in. They're not facing them. Pumas is a good team. Pumas is also missing a lot of pieces right now. So that makes it a little bit easier. You still got to take care of business. And those ghosts will slap you upside the head if you don't. But Seattle should embrace being the favorite, and they should play like being the favorite. That's always been my number one criticism of MLS teams in deep CCL matches. They don't handle the pressure of the occasion well. You see players revert to children at times in terms of freaking out, in terms of not handling somebody closing them down quickly, not handling the jeers from the crowd, not handling a packed opposing stadium, those kinds of things. You see them revert. It's happened so many times. That's the fear, but I don't think this Seattle team is that. Even after their kind of inexplicable, loss to San Jose and what happened there, even with, poor league form this year, I don't think the league really matters to them at the moment, and it shouldn't. It's about this final, and it's about making history, and all the things Garth Lagerwey said about this game being as big as it is. He's dead on. It's a huge opportunity for Seattle to change that narrative of an MLS team can't be the favorite in the final. I think Seattle is the favorite, and they need to play like it. They need to show it.
Well, see, that's the thing is you spend enough time being the underdog and surpassing your underdog. Acting as the underdog is great. You win enough games as the underdog, though, and you stop being the underdog, and you got to act like a favorite. And
yeah, the difference here, though, Jarrett, is they're not playing the underdog card. Like,
no,
you get teams and managers who will play the underdog card. That doesn't apply to this because it's what's happening here is the lack of belief card that everybody else has about, well, Seattle can't beat a Mexican team. And they don't even care what team it is. Like, there's a lot of people who are saying Seattle can't be the favorite because they're playing a Liga MX team. They don't know Dineno's injured. They don't know he's banged up. They don't know about, Puma's missing a starting center back in their team tonight. They don't know any of that stuff. It's just, no, it can't happen. It's impossible. And yeah, it's possible. And yeah, Seattle needs to change that narrative. They need a good performance tonight. They don't have to win tonight, but they need a good performance tonight. And they get the second leg at home where they need to close it out and they need to win it.
They do. And we'll see if they can get that performance because I'll feel a lot better after tonight. Just go manage that game on the road. And they should. Seattle should be able to go manage it. Even if they lose it 1-0, 2-1, that sort of thing. You're fine because you're coming back to Seattle. To Jason's point, it would be very entertaining for the I'm sure the Mexican media would have a field day with, oh my God, a team that's almost in the cellar of MLS might win Champions League. I mean, Mexican teams do it all the time, though. We see teams win Concacaf Champions League, and they're in the bottom half of the table because they got there off what they did last year, and Mexico's so volatile with its teams anyway. Where everybody just seems to yo-yo in quality every year with new managers and new.
It's to a degree, but Mexico also does the Apertura Clausura setup. So, you have two champions every year. You have a whole bunch of teams making the playoffs, so you can be deeper in the table, but still make a playoff.
Wait, I'm sorry. Hold on. Wait, other countries have playoffs, sir?
I know.
Other countries have playoffs?
Yeah, Belgium's doing it right now, Jared. They're actually doing playoffs right now, Belgium.
Oh,
where's Belgium ranked in the FIFA rankings, by the way? Aren't they pretty high? Yeah, that's what I thought.
There's a difference between the league and the national team, but
playoffs. Shut up.
Oh man. Well, knock me down with a feather. Other countries do playoffs, y'all. Hot damn.
I know, it's crazy.
And y'all, I want people to embrace the idea of, hey, y'all like cup competitions? You think they're drunk and fun and amazing? Imagine doing one at the end of the season. It's always very fun. Just do playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Just do a lot of weird playoff stuff, and then you too can have a game where, like, I don't know, let's say a certain Rafa Marquez loses his mind, and Bill Hamid is standing on the touchline yelling at people, and you too, England, can have amazingly drunken games that are talked about for years outside of just a standard cup competition.
You missed Bill Hamid then going into the locker room and tweeting at Kyle Martini.
Yes.
One of the most amazing
Bill
things
Hamid
I've ever seen on the
gets
Bird
in the
app.
locker room, probably takes off the gloves, has someone cut the tape off his hands, and immediately is online.
Tweeted at Kyle Martini.
I got a tweet, man.
Amazing. Yeah, if you had playoffs, you probably wouldn't have Bayern winning 10 titles in a row in Germany. You wouldn't have Celtic and Rangers trading off winning 10 in a row in Scotland. Maybe you'd have some of these things happen without having a salary cap and all those other scary things that happen in MLS that don't happen in other places. Maybe you would have some different things happen. I don't know. It's crazy. Anyway, what are you thinking about CCL, John? Is Seattle the favorite? Should they be the favorite? Where's your head at with this thing?
Oh, I think Seattle is the favorite in this. And, you've talked about how Seattle and Garth Lagerwey, they have constructed this roster, and Chris Henderson is a part of this before he left to go to Inter Miami, how they've brought in all of these players. They've constructed this veteran roster to do one thing, and it's win Concacaf Champions League. And I've looked at the possible absences, at least here in the first leg, that Pumas will have. Pumas is, they've lost 2 in a row coming into this particular match into leg one, and they're trying to fight 2 different battles where they're at the end of the Clausura, and I think they're 12th right now. It's the last playoff spot heading into the tail end of the Clausura, so they've got to fight that battle in addition to trying to win CONCACAF Champions League.
I don't think they're worried about fighting that battle. And that's something that maybe we overplay about Liga MX and compared to what we just talked about with the Premier League, where, it's City and Liverpool. They have to fight battles in the league on the weekend. They don't have a choice. If Pumas doesn't make the playoffs, the Liga in Liga MX in this half of the season, it's not the end of the world because it's split seasons. Like it's a different flow. It's a different feel. It's not ideal. Of course, you want to win the Aperture, the Clausura, all of them. You want to do all that, but it's a very different feel. They would 100% punt on making the Liga if they win the Champions League final. There is zero question about that. And it's just the format. It's just the format that lends it that way because it's not a whole season. It's not a whole year of a league that comes down to the end. It started in January, they've been kind of busy. They've done pretty well for themselves. Now, if the pressure ramps up, if you don't win the CONCACAF Champions League and then you don't make the playoffs, that's where people start talking and yapping and, well, you focused on this and you didn't even get the playoffs here and see you bye. Like, I don't know if that happens here, but they'll make that trade in a heartbeat, missing the playoffs, missing the Liga, and winning the CCL.
And, coming in, they've lost 2 in a row in league play.
Well, Seattle hadn't been good in league play.
I know Seattle's lost 2 in league play as well. But once again, we look at Seattle focusing on this, and you assume that the Pumas is doing the same thing. But I look at it really with the absences that Puma may be having that we've discussed going into this first leg, and everyone getting healthy for Seattle coming into this first leg on the road. I don't think that Seattle is a team that is going to be intimidated by their surroundings. And it's a veteran side that has been built for situations like this. And so I think that once again, you get out of there with a draw, you're fantastic. You get out of there with a win, you're ecstatic. You get out of there 1-0, a 1-goal loss, you're fine because you're taking it back home. And you're paying attention to what Marshawn Lynch has to say about filling Lumen Field and making sure that you get that second leg at home and you take care of business at home. I think that Seattle manages it tonight. I think they get out of there in good stead, and they get to fix it at home and try to determine if they can be CCL champs.
This was in our picks of the week. I picked Pumas to win. I think it'll be narrow. I think it's a 1-goal win. And I do think Seattle gets a goal on the road. And that will help them in the second leg. I think they'll be in fine position to go and win it at home next week. And I hope that their performance tonight inspires Sounders fans to fill Lumen Field, fill the whole thing to the brim, and make this a really special night in Seattle soccer history, because I think next week it can be.
Yeah, and I just checked the early weather predictions for next week, by the way, are like cloudy and a high of 62 in Seattle. So you're probably looking at a nighttime kickoff where it's like in the 50s or high 40s, probably windy and probably kind of the kind of wet chili that gets into your bones. Just good luck, Pumas. If this thing's tight going back there and it's a packed Lumen Field and it's kind of a windy, cold on the bone night with a bunch of Seattle fans, it can get weird. I promise.
It could. They've been in weird. They know weird.
Oh, they've been in weird. Absolutely.
They know weird very, very well.
But Seattle can bring weird. It's not to say that Pumas don't know how to deal with weird. It's that Seattle certainly can bring what is needed.
I think the biggest questions about this are, how do you manage tonight? And then Dineno, is he back next week? I mean, he's the talisman for Pumas. Is he back as their leading scorer? Is Leno Lopez back? He's been their best player in the league so far, central midfielder. You will get Arturo Ortiz, the center back. It's just a 1-game suspension for him. But a lot of it is going to be down to Dineno and Lopez. And if they're back for next week, and look, it's tough for Pumas is stronger. But if they're not, and Seattle manages tonight or gets a draw or gets a win tonight, they're an even bigger favorite to win this whole thing. What else do we have on the Twitch pitch before we get to Mike Conti at 10 o'clock and Jarrett runs out the door?
I believe getting back to our Champions League discussion, the Champions League across the pond, a question from El Mataflow was asking us what we thought was more likely to happen, an all-English final or an all-Spanish final?
More likely all-English, because I think they're both maybe the two best teams in Europe. I don't know. Let's see how today goes. Because, I mean, look, City's got the lead. I don't know if I'd say they're in the driver's seat going into the second leg, but they've got the lead. They gave up 3 goals to Real Madrid, so it is right on the precipice. Liverpool's more of a favorite over Villarreal, no question. So, yeah, an all-English final is the most likely. I don't think it's likely, but I think it's more likely.
Yeah. Then Alex Pacine along the same line said the away goals rule change has been a gift for neutrals.
Yeah, I mean, for now it has. I go back and forth on this, honestly. I go back and forth on whether I like it or I don't like it. It's one of those things that it's just kind of, to me at this point, like, what's the rule? Okay, let's go. Because we've seen, I mean, go back to the first leg in Paris with Real Madrid, where, I do think what came out afterwards, everybody attacking Carlo Ancelotti, was over the top, but they did go into that first leg more defensive. They have been very defensive. You still get those games. You still get the last series with Atleti and City, where it is cagier and there's not as many goals. It's easier to understand and follow, that's for sure. But I don't know how much of a tactical change it makes across the board just yet. I'm not sold either way on that rule. It's just one of those, like, what's the rule? Okay, cool, let's go.
Couple of points on Benzema. Former intern/host Niall says, not many players have the audacity to go Panenka in a situation like that.
It's incredible confidence. I mean, that's what it is. And when you're having the year that he's had, even though he missed a couple of penalties recently, he doesn't care. He has complete confidence in himself.
Karanhel then says the best thing for Benzema's career was when CR7 left Real Madrid.
It puts the spotlight on him. I mean, he blended really well with Ronaldo, but he also accepted, like, okay, I'm a little bit more of the sidecar here, and I'm a little bit more of the setup for him, and that he accepted it, and that's fine. He's in the spotlight now, and it's great for him in that sense. I don't think it's changed him as a player. I think it's just changed maybe what we see in him as a player, and that's great. For him, it's going to be great for France going into the World Cup for sure.
A lot of praise for Carlo Ancelotti this morning in the timeline. Mataflow, Ancelotti's an excellent manager. All in opposition are wrong.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, not every great manager is a Pep or a Klopp who has a system and has a style and everything's defined on that. Part of managing is managing players. And I don't know if there's anybody better than Carlo in that. Because he can walk into any team. You could have Carlo walk into any team. If he walked into Manchester United and when they were talking about potentially running him out of Madrid, which that was actually being said, when they were talking about that, and it's like, oh, well, then what? Manchester United should have hired him the next day because he would walk in and make them better. Like, would he give them a very specific style to play that would then be able to carry over? No, that's not what he does. He goes in and he wins. He's going to have a league title in all 5 major European leagues. He has had as much success in the Champions League as anybody. He's an amazing manager. He's just different. He's just a different manager. But I think he's a guy that is perfect for this Madrid team. Bunch of veterans. They don't want somebody meddling. They don't want somebody on top of them all the time. Carlo gives them their space to be themselves, and he helps set the structure up to get the most out of them. He's great.
And Will has set up everything going on in the last 4 years, and it has his life and soccer and the parallel tracks here. Will had knee surgery in 2018. He had knee surgery in 2022. Real Madrid player won the Ballon d'Or in 2018. Real Madrid player to win the Ballon d'Or in 2022. 2018 Champions League final was Liverpool-Real Madrid. 2022 Champions League final, Liverpool-Real Madrid, who I think is the favorite going home to Madrid down 1. This is what Will's saying. 2018 MLS Cup champs, Atlanta United. 2022 MLS Cup champs, he has no idea, but if Real and Liverpool advance, he's getting out his fancy juice boxes for Atlanta United in this case.
Is Will still on painkillers from his knee surgery?
That's the question for Will. So
if all of this comes true, I'm going to go blow out his other knee in 2023.
Maybe it needs the 4-year gap in between, though, Jared. Are you just going to like blow out his other knee just to find out if it could work back-to-back years?
Yes.
That's rude. I would probably wait till 26 just to be safe.
Science demands sacrifice.
I mean, it's not you sacrificing. It's Will's knees.
Exactly. It's not my knees. My knees are already shot.
Fair enough. We didn't talk about the results down in South America from last night. Let's run through those quickly. Libertad with a big win at home over Atlético Paranaense. Tito Villalba came on in the 56th minute. Did not start. Sorry, came on in the second half. Libertad got that win, and that puts them at the top of the table right now, with Caracas and the strongest still to play their third game in the group. Estudiantes with a big win at home over Red Bull Bragantino. They go to the top of the table right now. Other game in that group, Nacional went to Buenos Aires and beat Vélez in their own park 2-1. So Bragantino and Nacional are both on 4 points right now. Estudiantes leads the group. Independiente del Valle and Atlético Mineiro, 1-1 draw. All kinds of stuff going on in this one, as you would normally see between two teams that they don't have a whole lot of good feeling for one another after this. 1-1, though, was an early goal from Hulky for Mineiro, Atlético Mineiro in the 7th, and then Junior Sornosa got the equalizer in the 50th. In that group, IDV and Atletico are both on 5. Tolima and America Mineiro are on 1. They still have to play their third game in the group stage. Probably the one that's getting the most headlines across South America right now is Corinthians beating Boca 2-0 in Brazil. And that moves Corinthians to the top of the table, 6 points through 3 games. Deportivo Cali and Club Always Ready play tomorrow in Bolivia. Boca is at the bottom of the table on 3. Everybody came in on 3 points in this. So now all the talk about Boca losing is Battaglia could lose his job again. This has been going on for weeks. Really, the story, I mentioned it earlier, Sao Paulo police arrested a Boca fan at halftime after making racist gestures. You can see it on video. It's pretty clear. He's a blanking moron. He was making it towards Corinthians supporters. The racist insult and the arrest provides a penalty of 1 to 3 years and a fine. Good job, moron. Good job. Going to be in Brazilian jail for being an idiot on the road.
That's on you.
Good job, stupid moron. Mm-hmm. One thing I didn't mention in the which game was it? Let me make sure I got it. The Vélez game. Joel Sonora scored. Joel Sonora is the 4th U.S.-born player to score in the Copa Libertadores. First since 2013 and first to score for a non-Mexican team in the Copa Libertadores. Might want to keep an eye on Joel Sonora. Just saying. Maybe, possibly. Maybe. Other stuff in Libertadores. Talleres beat Sporting Cristal 1-0. That puts Talleres tied at the top of the group with Flamengo, but Flamengo still got to play Universidad Católica. Big games in the Sudamericana last night. Internacional went to Colombia and beat Independiente Medellin 1-0. Independiente, big win for them on the road at Deportivo La Guaira. That puts Independiente on 6 points through 3 games. Ceará is at the top of that table. They won over, I think, Mataflo's new favorite team, the General Caballero.
Mm-hmm.
They lost 2-0 at home to Ceará. And Fluminense and Unión de Santa Fe, scoreless draw. That's your South American update. Jarrett has already run out the door. I see how that is. John, you've got to tell us about our good friends over at Eliminize.
I could certainly do that. Eliminize service, QR code over my left shoulder. For those of you watching on Twitch, for odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go, it's Eliminize service. Deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos, Eliminize service has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. The turnkey process makes it easy to work with said realtors and property managers. Kind to the environment. We like that these days. It's a very green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. It's different than our favorite masking agents that we have under the sink, because those masking agents, all they do, mask the odor. They don't attack the problem. Proven scientific formula by our friends at Eliminize attacks the problem all the way down to the molecule. Pricing is easy, one of two ways, either by the cubic foot or parts per million, to make it affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, one place that you need to go, it's their website, eliminize.com. But do us a favor, after the .com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are contacting them from. So the full assignment is ELIMINIZE.com/Atlanta. Eliminize.com/Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air. Eliminize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH.
Mike Conti joining the show. What's up, Mike?
Hey, guys. Good morning.
Morning, Mike.
Another injury on the list, Mike. We knew this one was coming, though, with George.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the bad luck continues to really frustrate, right? Because this was another injury that was a result of contact. You know, it's a soccer accident. There was a collision between Campbell and Gonzalo Higuain, and Campbell kind of tumbled over the touchline. I remember Rob Valentino kind of picked him up and, you know, nudged him back on the pitch. But it was obvious that George was hurt. And I give George a lot of credit, by the way, for trying to see that match out, because Atlanta United needed him.
It was better to have one-legged George Campbell on the field than playing with 10.
Well, one-legged George Campbell committed a pretty good tactical foul that, you know, could have, you know, added another goal to the goal difference, which is not insignificant, you know.
Yeah, well, it might have taken Gonzalo Higuain out of play for a while because he has a thigh contusion.
Might have. But, you know, you just hope that George heals up quickly. You know, the good news is it looks like Alan Franco is back to 100%. He was on the bench. And look, don't underrate the cover that Alex DeJohn gives Atlanta United too. Mm-hmm. You cannot, you can't play that down. Alex DeJohn has been really, really solid when called upon by Atlanta United. So there's enough cover there for now. You hope it's not a long-term thing with George. You know, day to day is certainly better than week to week, but you hope with the week to week thing, it's on the lesser amount of weeks more than the larger.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, and once again, Mike, we go back to why this roster was constructed the way that it has been. For every absence, there has been cover, and this is another one of those instances where you see somebody like Alex DeJohn getting key minutes in the match against Chattanooga FC. So when he's called upon, you're inserted into the lineup. You give Gonzalo Pineda and Atlanta United what they're looking for. This is another example of that with George Campbell now on the shelf. Alex gets minutes now at the MLS level, but it's that preparation that gets you ready for moments like this.
Yeah, indeed you do. I don't think they built the roster quite with this in mind. The quantity of injuries that they have right now. But yeah, 100%. I mean, and your point about John is also I think valid when you talk about Bobby Shuttleworth. Mm-hmm. I mean, you are very, very fortunate as Atlanta United to have players with a lot of professional experience in these roles where they can provide cover, and you don't have to just throw kids out there. Not that Atlanta United would throw a kid who is unprepared out there ever, but it is a luxury to be able to have veteran players with MLS experience able to provide you with this cover. What you have to hope now is that you don't suffer too much more than what you have at this point, because then the cover is really going to be stretched. It's very, very fortunate that Santi Sosa is back and playing at the level that he played at in the first half on Sunday, because you're going to miss Ozzie Alonso for the rest of the year. And if you lose Sosa, then you're really, really, really thin. Not screwed, but very thin. Other spots of the park right now, you're probably okay. But you just hope that the luck turns around and that the bad luck that you're suffering in March and April and May with injuries will kind of be paid back by the soccer gods a little bit in September, October, and November.
Yeah, I mean, you got to deal with what you got to deal with. And right now you're dealing with a team that I think is improving their play. When we talk about just performance, I think they're improving game after game. And I think some of it is down to what Gonzalo Pineda's talked about, just getting a little bit of continuity with the starting group, getting some guys playing consistently next to one another, starting to build some of those foundational blocks in the way that the team plays. I thought they played their best, really, and maybe all season in Miami. And people will argue that because of the result, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about the performance. I think it was very, very good. It was the most frustrating of the results for me because the performance was so good. Yeah. And you created chances a variety of different ways. You created chances from a variety of different players. It was really strong, and you didn't get the result to show for it. That can drive you crazy. And that's probably the toughest thing that Gonzalo Pineda has to manage right now. It's not performance related stuff. It's probably a lot of morale related stuff, because it does wear on you when you play really well and you don't win games. It wears on a team. It
does, but I don't detect that being a morale killer right now.
No, I don't either. That's not what I'm saying at all. Please, I'm not saying that. Don't go start a narrative out there. It can be. And I think that's the hardest thing for a coach to do, and that's probably the toughest part of his job right now, is making sure that morale stays up.
100%. But I think Pineda is so far succeeding at that.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, without revealing more than we should, I mean, Jason and I are fortunate enough to travel with the team to these road games. I didn't detect anything in the short time that we were with the whole group on Sunday. I didn't detect any outward or overt frustration or anything like that. I think this team,
I didn't detect anything out of place. And that's the thing you have to understand. Like, they should be frustrated after that game.
Sure. And you have to be careful. Like, you can't come out, if you're a player or a coach, you can't come out and say, we're happy, because you didn't win. You don't want to transmit that message that, you're happy with losing, because you aren't. You never are. But they should be satisfied with the performances. And I think even the most, I don't know, skeptical, maybe negatively oriented, antagonistic people who view this team would have to concede that if you put their performances against Cincinnati and Miami next to the performances they had against Colorado and their first meeting against Charlotte, there is undoubted, and quite frankly, the first match they had against Montreal, I mean, there's absolutely no doubt that this team is making progress. They have gotten incredibly unlucky from an inability to put the ball in the net standpoint and from an injury standpoint, but the performances have been really good. And, well, maybe not really good, but clearly better.
They've been really good. I'll say it. This one was really good.
Yeah. And again, it's harsh to feel like they played better against Charlotte than they did against DC and lost. They played better against Cincinnati than they did against Charlotte, and they got a draw. And they played better against Miami than they did against Cincinnati, and they lost. That is the part that will frustrate observers. But I think there has to be self-belief right now that they're going in the right direction. And honestly, thank God for that Open Cup match against Chattanooga. And I know it's against a third division team, but there was a lot of positive from a morale standpoint that everyone could have taken out of that match, because you did exactly what you were supposed to do. You thrashed a third division team. I'm really glad that occurred when it did, because I do think it changes the vibe a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot, but I do think it changes the vibe a little bit, where you're not talking about winless in your last three. You're talking about, 1-2-1 in your last four, and your goal difference over those four matches is still pretty far in the plus. So I think that helps too. But I'm absolutely satisfied with the performances. Those types of performances, more often than not, are going to produce results. It's just been a teensy bit unlucky that it has not happened for Atlanta United. By the way, even as all these points are dropped, where's Atlanta United on the table right now? 4th. How many points out of second are they? 3. And they have a match in hand on the third place team. They're not losing ground. You're starting to get a real bunch together between 3rd and 10th on the table. It is bunching up, but you're still 4th. So even as you're dropping points, you're still above the home field line right now. It's April. It's early, but you're fine. You haven't tumbled to 12th or 13th. You are still absolutely fine right now.
And you're getting this progression with belief in the system without all of the pieces. And it's I know it seems to be a point that we continue to discuss here, but you didn't have all of your pieces offensively, but you had your defense. You're getting progression, and you have the belief in what's going on with Gonzalo Pineda. Now you're getting your offensive pieces together. You've added Ronaldo Cisneros, but now you're having to work on things at the back. I know that it's the back and forth is there with who you have and who you don't, but you're getting that progression without all of your pieces.
Well, and a couple things there. I mean, I do think it's encouraging, and the Open Cup match has to be counted, that you've gotten 3 goals in your last 2 competitions from your striker. I think that's really, really good. I mean, think back to 2020, when Joseph got hurt, you were having a lot of trouble getting goals from Adam John and J.J. Williams and Kubo Torres. You're not, at least at this point, you're not appearing to have that problem. You've gotten a goal from Cisneros. You've gotten 2 from Dwyer. You hope that Dwyer gets over the I guess, kind of wear and tear that came from playing a lot against Chattanooga, and maybe he can be back available for selection against Montreal, because I think Atlanta United needs him. But, you're not seeing those same issues from 2020, which is a good thing. As far as the defending is concerned, again, the last 4 competitions, you've given up 3 goals. 1 was an Olympico, and the 2 goals that you gave up on Sunday were both individual mistakes. Not necessarily team breakdowns in defending, individual mistakes. You're also, by the way, suddenly doing much, much better clearing corners. Much, much better on your set piece defending. Outside of the Olympico in Charlotte, which I don't think really is an indictment of set piece defending.
No.
You've done a lot better there. So I think even defensively, you're seeing progress. An individual setback here or there, but progress. So
it's all connected, and it's not 2 units. And I think the way that Gonzalo Pineda wants this team to play, it's not one or the other. It's not the back line versus the midfield and the forwards. It's all together. The forwards have to defend. The back line has to attack. They're all interconnected. And if you go from game 1 to the Miami game, you see progress in the way that they play. You see progress in, I think, the way they're defending all over the field. I think in the way that they're attacking from a variety of different positions. Brooks Lennon is among the league leaders in chances created as a right back primarily, although he played some on the right wing earlier in the season. Again, positions and formations a little overrated at times. You're getting Andrew Gutman forward. You're playing Caleb Wiley, who's generally played left back, on the left wing, and he's been very effective. you're getting Luis Araujo back in. And I think Luis gives you that wild card that maybe they've been missing a little bit. You don't have that number 9, although I thought Cisneros was good here. You don't have that number 9 like Joseph, that even when Joseph isn't at his best, he scares you if you're the opposition. Luis scares you because of his talent, but also because of his unpredictability. He just has a different philosophy than Almada, than Moreno. He dribbles, I know, perish the thought, but he does it in a different way than Marcelino does, than Almada does. He's a great passer, but he looks for different passes than Almada might. And when you have that wild card, that joker in the deck here, and you get him for 90, I think it opens up more space for everybody else. I think it starts to take some of the pressure off. I think Almada is really trying to carry this team and not overdoing it. I think he's putting a lot of pressure on himself, and he should, with who he is and what he can bring to this team, and he's playing really well. But we've seen, and we saw it in this one, a couple of chances that, he was so close.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you can get Araujo into the team, Thiago doesn't feel quite as, I've got to carry everything. I've got to do this. I think he can relax a little bit more and play a little more freely, just because you have that one more dangerous attacker in the group. And it makes the attack better even without the number 9 having to carry it, like we've typically seen with Atlanta United. I think you've got a trio out of that group that can carry it and then make things easier for a Cisneros or Dwyer, or they rotate, or one of them grabs it full time to kind of fit in.
Yeah, you absolutely do. You just want more. Araujo, I think, has played under 150 minutes on the season now, not including last Wednesday. And I think even there it was, only 30 against Chattanooga. So
you want to get him from the start.
Yeah. So you just need it and want more of it. But I think you're getting in the direction of being able to get that. I think another player who hopefully will be back sooner rather than later, who can really help open things up for the midfield going forward, is Mateus Ozatu, who I thought was playing pretty well prior to his injury. I don't know if that happens this week or next. And fortunately, you have Hindman kind of slowly but surely getting back into this thing as well. So, you just have to kind of light a candle now and hope that you don't have another injury setback, and hope that everyone who is on their way back, stays on schedule, because you're going to get to the point in another week or two, when you start having these home matches back to back to back, when you play Chicago and then New England, you'll have Open Cup in there. But when you play in league play, Chicago, New England, Columbus in the month of May, maybe even, fingers crossed, Chance Joseph could potentially be back by Columbus. Maybe, this thing's going to be on the launching pad and ready to take off, I think.
They've just got to continue to build on what they're doing. For the people who are worried, have concerns, and I see the Twitch pitch. I know we probably shouldn't say that it's not, bad. The reason why I'm not worried right now about where things are, and the reason why I'm frustrated rather than upset with the way the team has played, is the performances have been strong and improving. If the performances were not strong and the results were what they were, I'd be more worried. But again, the results, where you are in the table, is real. It's not fake. So you're not blowing things at this point, for sure. And 2, I feel like the best is coming because they're consistently improving. So that's why I feel the way that I do. That's all I can say. Disagree with that. That's fine. But you have to look at performance and results.
Yeah.
And you can't let one skew it.
Yeah. And I'm watching this thing between Uncle No Pockets and Niall on the Twitch pitch. And here's the thing. No one is saying that it's okay to lose. No one's happy with losing.
Yeah. I think I've said the word frustrated 538 times this week.
But just because the results aren't there doesn't mean the performances haven't been good.
No.
And I guess I would just like a little bit more Uncle No Pockets, maybe on the Twitch pitch, you could explain a little bit better what about the performances has you concerned. I understand you're saying you're being realistic. Maybe you could help explain a little bit more in detail what about the performances is falling short of expectations.
Yeah, I'm talking about the team performances, not individual performances, by the way. And yes, this game, you had some individual mistakes. You did. And as I said on Monday, it doesn't mean that a 20-year-old center back who had a bad day at the office shouldn't be playing and is bad and is never going to amount to anything either. And we've got to stop doing that nonsense, because he's playing a lot of games and he's played very well this season. And he had a bad day. He did.
And
great players have bad days too.
I don't want to get into an argument with someone on the Twitch pitch, but like Uncle No Pockets, hit the net. Well, no crap. Like how many chances created have there been in the last 3 matches? Like, come on, man. Like they've done everything but hit the net, but there's nothing that they're doing insufficiently that makes it impossible for them to hit the net. Get results. Yes, no kidding. Yes, but they're doing everything correctly to get the results. Stop blaming injuries. Come on, man.
Like, you can't avoid that. I'm sorry.
How is that not part of the context of what is happening right now? This is a salary cap league. How many matches has Atlanta United played this year with all 3 of their designated players for 90 minutes? Zero.
You haven't had a training session with them on the field together.
Right. They haven't even trained with all 3 designated players. You're in a salary cap league.
No, I take that back. You have had training sessions with the designated players. So you haven't had Moreno involved. Yeah, you haven't had Moreno.
But still, not since the season began.
Right.
So, look, I respect the passion, but I think that's an oversimplification to say, well, they're failing because they're creating enough chances, but they aren't hitting the net.
That's why they're losing.
That's why they're losing, but it doesn't mean they're playing poorly.
They're not. The facts aren't mutually exclusive.
They're different things. Here's where I want to leave it, because this has come up before, and I want this to be clear to people who disagree with the way that I see the game, or the way Mike sees the game, or the way John sees the game. When we disagree with how you see the game, just like you disagree with how we see the game, please understand that it is a disagreement, and that is it. It is not anything more than that, because yes, we do host the show and Mike is our guest, and we put a lot of time into this, and this is our job, and we have an opinion on it that I think is pretty well founded. And please show respect to our ability to disagree with you, just like you disagree with us on the show. I hope that happens, because at times it doesn't. And it's not fair to have the expectation that because somebody who listens, somebody who watches the show, somebody who's involved disagrees, that then me or Mike or John is supposed to change our opinion. That is not off the cuff. That is not, just because, this is what I'm supposed to say. It's an opinion that's based on experience in the game, based off what we've seen firsthand, based off all of this. Just because we don't change our opinion and say, you're right, we're wrong, doesn't mean we don't hear you, doesn't mean we disrespect you, doesn't mean that you can't disagree. You can't expect me, I'm sorry, and I'm going to speak from my perspective here. You can't expect me, with the experiences I've had in the game, the amount of time I put into the game, always trying to learn more about it, always trying to dig deeper. You can't expect me to throw that away because of what somebody disagrees with me and just tells me that and says, no, you're wrong. This is what it is. That's not fair. That's disrespectful to all the work I put in. So I hear you. I wish they scored more goals. I wish you didn't have injuries, but you can't avoid talking about injuries when you've had the injuries that you've had. You cannot. I'm sorry. If that's the game that's going to be played here with the conversation about a team, then we can't really talk about any team. because Real Madrid's talking about injuries from yesterday. They didn't have their full group yesterday. They're going to talk about it. It's part of the conversation about how a team's playing. And when we talk about the way a team's playing versus results, that's a real conversation that's had worldwide. It's not something we're inventing. It's part of the conversation. Of course, you score more goals, you're going to win more games.
Yeah.
You don't make individual mistakes, you're going to concede less.
Yeah.
These are things that are real. But you also can't avoid, just like I'm telling you, you can't avoid injuries as part of that conversation, or you can't avoid performances being part of the result conversation. Yes, ultimately, you don't get to the playoffs, you don't lift trophies based off of performance level. You have to have the wins to go along with it. You have to get healthy. You have to continue to improve. The way this team is playing, as I've said for a while now, I like where they're going. I like what's coming. MLS is a playoff league. You want to be your best at the end. That's the idea here. They are building, and I like what they're building, and that's where I'm at. But I'm incredibly frustrated about not beating Miami when they had their best performance of the year, not beating Cincinnati when they outplayed Cincinnati thoroughly, not beating Charlotte when they outplayed Charlotte thoroughly, in my opinion. I'm frustrated about not winning those games.
Yeah.
But I also don't think the team is crap because they didn't win those games. And I'm not going to go down that road and entertain that, because that's not what I see at all.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I want to apologize. I didn't mean to raise my voice, at all. I do respect the debate. Uncle No Pockets, I do respect your opinion. I disagree with it strongly. That doesn't mean I don't respect you. There are some people on the Twitch pitch who do not respect me, and that's fine. What I have a problem with is this notion that Jason and I are saying things that we don't believe because we have to say it.
Right.
I am not going to tell, and again, for the people who disagree with me, Uncle No Pockets, whoever, I'm not going to tell you something that I don't believe because it's what you want to hear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Jason and John are in the same boat. We're not going to tell you things we don't believe because it's what you want to hear. We are sharing our observations. Your observations are absolutely valid. And Jason and I talk about this all the time after broadcast. And if you listen to Jason and I, we bicker sometimes on the air.
Yeah, we disagree about the way we see the game.
We disagree. Jason and I disagree about things we see during the game all the time.
I'm a bully, though, Mike. Remember that, though.
Yes.
Well, you're not. No. Well, but see, okay, this kind of goes to my point, though, a little bit. Right. We did all the time. If you go back and listen to Jason and I do a game, there's probably 4 or 5 moments each match where we clearly disagree about something we both saw from the same spot. We're standing in the same commentary box, and we just view it totally differently. And that's okay, because I respect Jason and Jason respects me. And, for those of you who are watching the game at home or in the stadium, you could be watching the exact same match that Jason and I are and have a completely different takeaway. And that's absolutely okay. But as is the case with Jason and I'm not going to change what I think about what I saw because I want Jason to like what I have to say. That's
Please don't do that.
So, and look, I think we are all collectively, the three of us, the Twitch pitch, fans who aren't watching SDH or listening today, I think we're all in the same boat because we are frustrated. We want Atlanta United to win every single match they play. Unfortunately, it just doesn't happen that way. I wish it did. Now we have to examine what has occurred that is causing them to not win every single match. And we are sharing our observations on what we think is going on. But that doesn't mean that we're going to say, there's a bunch of people out there who think that the performances have been insufficient solely because they're not scoring. I don't believe that. So I'm not going to say it. It doesn't mean
that's not how I look at overall performance.
I don't respect a person who will say that, but I don't believe that. And I'm not going to say it just to make someone happy.
Yeah, I don't come at how I feel about the game cheaply. I don't come at it from a hot take perspective or just what can I say that will get people going today. I don't do that. That's not the show that I wanted to create. It's not the show that we have. The show is, what do we see? What do we think? Why do we think what we think? And yes, when somebody tweets at me or tweets at the show or drops a comment in the Twitch pitch, you don't have a microphone to explain in deep detail of what you're saying. That is 100% true. I do. We started the show. That's the whole point. Wanted to share how I feel about the game, what I see, why I see it. And I try to explain to you in detail why I'm seeing what I'm seeing and why I feel the way I feel about it. Because I don't want it to come off as just, oh, this is what somebody said on Twitter, so this is how I have to feel, but I don't really believe it. It's a short show if that's the case.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a pretty short show because I don't really have a whole lot of info to back that up.
Well, can I just interject too? Because I feel like this is one of the things that's become very, very toxic outside of the Atlanta United community. I'm talking about the world in general.
Yeah.
I think this is something that's become very, very, very toxic in the era of social media in which people can say things anonymously. I think that debate has been misconstrued as disrespect.
Yes.
And that we're having a sports debate here. And that is one thing. And I have to remind myself of this too sometimes because I take things personally. Well, I'll tell you what I do take personally is when people assail my credibility.
Yeah.
That I do take personally.
Yeah.
And that
I take name calling personally. I don't take disagreeing with my soccer thoughts personally.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when you disagree, when I say, this is a salary cap league and someone comes on and says, well, you're talking about depth and now you're talking about salary cap league. I don't take that personally. You're right. I did say both of those things in this segment. You're right. It's part of the sports debate we're having. Yeah. We're not telling yo mama jokes. Okay. We're not insulting each other's, pets or, food preferences or anything like that.
No, we do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We do that.
My food preferences get completely insulted.
Well, in a joking way.
I'm
we're
not taking that out of the show.
Politics or religion. This is nothing like so. I want to make that clear too. Like we are having sports debates here. It is okay to disagree and not take it, offensively or personally or anything like that. There is a particular person or two who lurks out there who assails my credibility, and I do have issues with that, big issues. But the sports debate that we've had here on the show, like it's totally fine to view things through a different prism and disagree and have a little fun with it and raise our voices about it. It doesn't mean I think any less of you as a person. Yeah, so that's all. I hate that, and I feel like the Skip Baylesses and the debate shows, the Stephen A. Smiths have kind of unfortunately twisted sports debates into whoever shouts the loudest now.
Yes.
And I'm guilty of that too.
Everybody is. But I think we're all guilty of that. If you believe in something passionately, right. I mean, I'll defend the ways I feel about the game and all of that. Yeah, I'll defend that very strongly and very loudly because it's real. Again, like the way I feel about the game, it started from watching Diego Maradona in 1986. I wanted to learn more about the hows and the whys when I was a kid, and it's built from there. That's how a lot of people are worldwide about this game because this game is the hardest to define. That's why you have these conversations.
Right.
There's not one way to play it. It's not as simple in terms of, I mean, baseball's baseball. It is what it is. Like you have some strategy in it, sure, but you don't have philosophies about how to play it the same way. You don't have the Jose Mourinho versus Pep Guardiola versus Jurgen Klopp versus Marcelo Bielsa debates about baseball managers. You don't have it really about basketball as much anymore. You don't have it about football too much. You have different ways to, have an offense built, and you have different ways to have a defense built. But in this game, you've got worldwide debates going back decades and decades about what is the right way to play it. So for us to have a debate in 2022 about the right way to play it with one team in Atlanta, we're going to have that. Go sit down in a cafe in Argentina and stand on the table and say that Cesar Luis Menotti is the best manager in the history of the game and his way is the only way. And you're probably going to get kneecapped off the table by somebody who's going to come in and shout Bilardo in your face. And then a Bielsa guy is going to come in and kick you while you're on the ground. That's the game. That's this game. Yeah. We all have different feelings about it. That's what's great about it.
Well, I'll just say I'll wrap up on this. I'm really excited about Pumas in Seattle. And I really think there is a chance for MLS to finally get a CONCACAF Champions League winner this year. I loved the Marshawn Lynch thing. I loved it. I know you said a naughty word or two.
No.
Loved it. I thought that was great.
Absolutely.
What are they up to now? 45,000 in ticket sales, I have heard.
Over that. They were that over the weekend, and they were over it. So they should be much higher now.
Pumas is playing really, really well.
They've lost 2 in a row in league, though.
That's true.
And they're missing pieces tonight. It's there for Seattle to take.
It is there for Seattle. Thank you. It absolutely is. I cannot wait. And it's weird to say I'm rooting for Seattle, but I am rooting for Seattle because it would be another notch in this league's belt that would help elevate the profile of this league. So I am really, really eager for Seattle and Pumas tonight. I'm really, really eager to get up to Montreal because I do think that the performances that Atlanta United have had over the last 4 competitions, it's got to pay off at some point. If there's a regression in the performances, then that's a concern, and that becomes something that we need to evaluate why it happened. But I do really think that we're going to have 4 or 5 days of very entertaining soccer coming up, starting tonight and continuing through this weekend. And I'm really, really eager to see how it all unfolds because that's why sports is the greatest reality show in the world, right? Like you never know what the outcome is going to be until it happens. I think we're going to be surprised in a lot of different ways, but I think the match tonight might be, I'll come out and say it, I think it might be one of the most emotional, memorable MLS versus Liga MX matches ever.
Could be.
I really think that.
Especially if Seattle gets a win on the road in this first leg. I think next week will be even more. But if Seattle somehow comes out of there with a win on the board, and again, it's right there for them because of the injuries that Pumas is dealing with, they can do this, and they need to be expected to do this at this point. Like, that's the thing about MLS teams in this. It's not the, oh, well, we're just happy to be here. No. Seattle should expect to go down there and get a result. I hope they do.
I do too. Because if they do, oh boy, don't put the champagne on ice, but
definitely don't do that. But
you can really start to have some very positive expectations for the way this could turn out. And I'm with you. I think there is something for the taking tonight.
We'll talk a little bit more about that on stoppage time. We'll talk more about Atlanta United, and we're looking ahead to Montreal, which I think will be a great match because I really like the way Montreal approaches the game. And last time it was a classic.
There are going to be a lot of goals in that match both ways. In a great stadium, great environment, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, can't wait for it. Stoppage time, 2:00 on Twitch /stoppage time 929. Also on Facebook.com/929 the game. Talk to you then, Mike.
Okay, guys. See ya.
Be good.
All right, what we got on the Twitch pitch? Where are we going for the rest of the show? We got some news and stuff to get into, too, but let's grab a couple questions quickly.
Sure. Nix says, how mad are Liga MX fans going to be when they get beat by the MLS team that's 23rd out of 32 teams right now?
Oh, they'll be mad. They'll be mad. Just like MLS teams should be mad about Pumas won, and they're the 12th out of 18?
19? Yes, 12 out of 18, yeah.
18. It's 18 again. Yeah, I forgot you had the weird Veracruz thing. 12th out of 18, same thing. But yeah, they'll be mad. They're mad no matter what if they lose to an MLS team. That's how the Liga MX fans roll.
Also on the board, let me go back to a recent comment that Tafka had asking about the calendar. We get one more CCL, and this is, if I'm not mistaken, we get one more CCL on the current format, right? Leagues Cup won't take place until next year's CCL has concluded. Is that right?
Yeah, the 23 CCL is the normal format, and then the 23-24 2024 CCL is where you'll start with some of the different things, if I'm not mistaken, because it crosses over 2 years with it. Let me break that down so I don't confuse anybody, because it does change dramatically here coming up with some new things. So, I mean, technically it starts with 23. It set up to begin. Is that what it finalized as? Yes, I think. They went through a couple different potential formats, so that's why it's a little confusing. This was announced in September of 21. 27 teams, 22 will enter in round 1. 5 more enter at the round of 16 stage. You've got competitions that lead to it that occur in 23. That's why I said 23, 24. But Leagues Cup will be in 23. You'll have teams that go from there into this. So the way this will go in round 1, which will be in 24, I probably was confusing with the way I said that initially. Round 1 of the new CCL, which will be in 2024, 4 MLS teams, 2 Leagues Cup teams, the runner-up and the third place, 5 Liga MX, 2 Canadian Premier League teams, 1 Open Cup winner, 1 Canadian Championship winner, 5 Central American Cup clubs, and that's going to be played in the second half of 23, and 2 Caribbean Cup clubs. The winners of those competitions go into the round of 16, the Caribbean Cup, the Central American Cup, the Liga MX champion, the Leagues Cup winner, and the MLS Cup winner go into the round of 16. And then it's what we're used to, home and away series going forward. Final, a one-off game in a single location, played on a weekend date starting in 2024.
Liga MX discussion with Concacaf Champions League. Storm Chaser Kevin says there'll be a ton of buts from Liga MX folks if the Sounders win.
That's the worst thing about, going back to how we discuss things and how we talk about things. There will be all the buts no matter which way you go. There were buts yesterday about a great game. And if you're ever wondering about how I feel about the game, the first part of the show today, it's everybody zeroing in on mistakes with Manchester City and Real Madrid. And I'm like, wow, that was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel the game. That's how I love the game. So the buts happen no matter what. Liga MX will always have a but anytime MLS wins. And what I guess is a little frustrating is generally MLS fans are like, yeah, we suck. There's not a but there. It's like, yeah, we were not very good. Yeah, and I think at times we're getting into that with Atlanta United now, where it's like, Atlanta's, somebody says something bad about Atlanta, it's like, yeah, you're right. Instead of like, hey,
yeah,
that's not true. Yeah, but
mm-hmm.
Now it's just, yeah, okay.
Back to the Real Madrid discussion quickly, a couple of points there. Ricky says Ronaldo and Benzema for Real Madrid is a Joe Montana, Steve Young situation, and we've been blessed to have it.
Well, the difference is Benzema didn't sit the bench with Ronaldo, and you wondered what he would be. Benzema adjusted his game to play well with Ronaldo and is an even bigger star now that he has the spotlight. So it's even more special than that. Benzema's been one of the most underrated players just because he was second fiddle for a while. Great player, absolutely brilliant player, and he's in his best form right now.
Will on Ancelotti says, honestly, Carlo is probably the best fit for Manchester United's roster build.
Well, right now, but they need to change it so you can get into a different situation. Because they need, we've talked about this with Atlanta, and it goes back to why I'm not freaking out about results versus performance right now. You have to have an identity, in my opinion, unless you are a team that's just going to buy talent. Well, in MLS, you can't 100% do that. You can to a degree. You can give yourself more opportunities because it's a cap league, but you can spend more than some teams in certain ways, and Atlanta does that. But you're still limited in other ways. In Real Madrid, Carlo's perfect because they can spend what they want. He can have all the stars, and he's not locked into a style where there's some stars that he can't really use. And that's always going to be a question with a Pep team. That's always going to be a question with a Klopp team. Like, yeah, we want stars, but they got to fit the style. Carlo's perfect for a team like that because he'll just take what he's got and make something work out of it. That's great. But if you're not that team that's just going to outspend everybody, and Manchester United's shown that even when they do spend, they spend like morons. You've got to have some kind of an identity to fall back on. Like if you're in a cap league like MLS, I think you have to have an identity, or you're going to struggle more often than not. You have to have an identity. Atlanta has built an identity, and I think Gonzalo Pineda has created his identity that fits inside of that. And it's a little different than some of the others, but you're seeing his identity and the way he feels the game and the way he wants to see the game play out. You see that with Pep. You see that with Klopp. You see that with the greats. Ancelotti is unique in that he is not as married to an identity, and that really works for some clubs in the world. It doesn't mean he's not as good as the others. He's just different. He can fit into more places than the other guys can. Doesn't mean he has more success than the other guys. They have a lot of success too. They find it different ways. And I think in a league like an MLS, like would he work? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, he wouldn't work as well as he does in other leagues where he can go into the biggest spending team and they can just go and spend what they want, and he'll take what he's got and he'll make it work. Or he can follow up somebody like Pep at Bayern and take what's there, not make dramatic changes to it, make some alterations, minor alterations, but continue down that road. That's what's amazing about Carlo. So he's great at what he does. What he does is different than what some others do.
And I will admit that going through the Twitch pitch timeline, I will be bouncing around from topic to topic.
That's fine. It's a Wild Pass Wednesday.
Modaflow, in our Copa discussion late in the first hour, did we mention Deportivo Táchira being the first Venezuelan team to win a Libertadores match in Bolivia?
No, I did not mention. I did not know that. That is amazing. Winning matches in Bolivia is not easy to begin with. They did face not one of the bigger clubs in Bolivia, an Independiente Petrolero, but a 2-1 win for a Venezuelan club in Bolivia. That's a big deal. And in Group A, with that result, Palmeiras is in the top spot. They play, I believe, tonight or tomorrow. They're dominating the group. Oh, they play tonight. They play Emelec. Deportivo Táchira is in second right now, and if Palmeiras wins or draws, Táchira will stay in second. Independiente Petrolero's at the bottom. They're a little weak. So Táchira is going to have something to say about it, but they're going to have to pick up points against Palmeiras and Emelec, which won't be easy for them.
Quickly in our discussion about the Montreal match coming up, Kefsi says Montreal may be super chippy again. Cap Wanyama continues to do all the ish housing you want from a leader based on their last match.
Yeah, I mean, that's how he's going to play. He's a little bit older guy, and he's a combative kind of a guy. So, yeah, I mean, that's not going to change.
Tunnel at Stade Saputo.
Yeah. Let's not get hung up on all these kinds of things that happened in the past. It's not going to be easy, not in any way, because Montreal's just a good team. And they've got veterans like Wanyama, like Kai Kamara, who they ride through these ups and downs pretty well. And that's why I think Wilfred Nancy is one of the best coaches in the league too, because you look at what Montreal did in CCL and what it did to their league play early on. They struggled. They didn't lose the plot with the results in league early. And now they're on a great run. They're a well-coached team. They're not an easy team to break down. I think they're a very good organized defensive team. And then they have guys like Georgi Mihailovic, Kyoto, Kamara that can ruin your day on the other end. So I think it's a game where Atlanta will have the possession. I think they will control the play. But ultimately, you're probably not going to create as many chances as you did against Miami and as you did against Cincinnati. But you've got to make them count. And I like where Cisneros is going. I like where Dwyer's going. They're very different. And I wonder which one gets the call here against Montreal based off what Gonzalo Pineda is expecting with Montreal. Is it somebody like Dwyer who is going to look to combine at times, but also is a good poacher in the 18? Or are you looking at somebody like Cisneros, who is going to be more of a player who can stretch the back line? You could play over the top a bit and open up more space for the guys underneath him. I don't know which way is going to be the way against Montreal, and that's going to be the big decision for Pineda, in my opinion.
Speaking of Atlanta United, Byrne came in our discussion with Mike, and Byrne says offensive performances have been good, but you can't say defensive performances have been great. Not making catastrophic mistakes is a part of performance as well. Just ask Borussia Dortmund in particular if your playing idea is built on taking risks.
I don't believe I said their defensive performances have been great, but I also don't think their defensive performances have been the drizzling issues either, as some would try to take it to. The overall, defensive performances is overall. Even the individuals. We've talked about it early on. I thought Miles Robinson was struggling with some of the moments that he had to deal with the national team. He's played much better lately. George Campbell's played very well. Didn't play well in Miami. Obviously, you've got to handle those situations. It's twofold, though, Bernd, and this is what I would say to it. You're going to put defenders in situations where they're going to make more mistakes when they take risks. You're not going to find a defender who doesn't make mistakes. It ain't happening. You're going to find defenders who make less mistakes, and you're going to find defenders who make maybe their mistakes in less dangerous parts of the field, but you're not going to find a defender who is completely 100% perfect. And if that's the expectation, then forget it. People are just going to be angry nonstop. They're not great defensively right now, but they're also not bad. One reason why is they're controlling the play a lot. And that's how you take some of the pressure off of the back line that you're going to ask to be in some of those situations because you take risks. You control the play, you build up the play properly, you get into the attacking half properly, you're not going to be stretched as often. Look at the 2 goals that you gave up against Miami. It's not about, yes, Campbell loses the cross. That's a huge problem on the first goal. But Miami had a well-played moment down the right side. They also had a nice little spell of possession to lead up to it, but they had a nice 1-2. Cross gets in from Yedlin. Campbell loses a goal. The second one is the thing you worry about when you're a team that controls the play, controls possession, brings your defense up a lot, having a turnover in the middle third where the other team can jump on you. And that's what happened in the second one. And you can't have that. And when you do, you've got to try to find a way to rescue it, even though the odds are probably don't. That's the trade-off you make. And that's the judgment I think you have to have about how defenders play. It's a lot harder to do that than if you're a back line that sits back and defends from a deep position and you're always in position to defend those moments. You're not going to be that here very often. And that's the choice that the club has made, honestly, from day one. You've heard Michael Parkhurst and Greg Garza talk about it on the show, and Tata Martino was like, no, you're going to defend 1v1. That's what it is. You don't have cover. Deal with it. They weren't always perfect. No defender is in a 1v1 all the time. You look for 1v1s. If you're the other team, you're like, ooh, that's interesting. Cool. Let's feed this guy. And you're trying to force the mistake at the wrong time. You're trying to, make somebody make a mistake. Unforced errors and mistakes are 2 different things too. And that's something that I try to kind of separate. So defenders in this team are going to make mistakes because they're going to be put in positions to make mistakes at times. You're asking them to not make many mistakes. That's, I think, the fair expectation here. And you're asking them when they make their mistakes to not make them in certain parts of the field where they can be, more dangerous.
Kefsi, I'd like to know how people view this as Nero's heel flick. Okay with a chance on goal from a difficult to predict path, or would like to see him try to control to make a higher percentage shot while losing the surprise?
There's zero way he could control that. That's I think just understanding the situation. I'm not saying, Kefsi, that you're saying he could have done something different. I don't think he could have. It's a cross that he is at full sprint coming across to the near post. The cross is a little behind him. There's no way he's able to hit the brakes and keep it. If he takes a touch to try to keep it in front of him, he's taking it away from goal to the end line. The only opportunity he had was the heel flick. That was it. That's all he had. That's what a striker has to do in that moment. He could have let it run. That would have been the other thing. Like, that's really it. He's not able to control that. I don't think he's got the air brakes to control that, because you would have to stop on a dime, control it, and then turn back to goal somehow. Like, he's blowing his ACLs if he does that. I don't think you can do it. He could have let it run. I don't know what was behind him. I don't think there was anything behind him that would have been the smart play there. I think there were defenders. So you got to make that play. That's what great strikers do. Great strikers find a way to find the back of the net. That was an incredible save from Marsman.
Yeah.
A lot better seeing the replay than I thought it was live, because I didn't see how difficult it was for him. He had to get his arm out quick on that reaction. I thought it was a really inventive thing from Cisneros. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, folks on the Twitch pitch agree with that assessment, and Kefsi, after getting the straw poll, hopes that it comes good another time.
There just wasn't another play. It's not that he tried to do something that was low percentage and he had a better percentage option. That was the only percentage, I think, that he had. So you have to try it.
Five-stripe dog. Gutman has been our most consistent player so far this season. Dude runs like 10 miles a match.
He runs a ton. It's been really good to see that, and we talked about this with Brad's injury and how Atlanta will build up the play, because building up the play is very important. And I feel like maybe eyes gloss over when we talk about this. Just like we were talking about defenders being in position to make mistakes, when you build up the play properly, you give your defenders less risk because you get them forward in an organized manner. It's why Guardiola talks about 15 passes to build up the play properly. That's about being organized. If you just bomb it forward as a defender and you're going to play a high line and do the other things to it, you're asking for trouble. If you control possession and get forward in an organized way, then you're covered. That's why you can immediately counter press. That's why you can be aggressive in trying to win the ball back, because you're organized. When you have Brad Gazan as part of that build-up play, it's easier to build up play. You've got one more player. When it's Bobby Shuttleworth, and the passing numbers I thought reflected this, Bobby had about his usual passes per game that he's had in other stops in his career, about 22. I think he had 22 in this game. Brad was generally with Atlanta somewhere between 36 and 40. That's a number of passes that you've got to reallocate in your buildup without sacrificing the buildup. How has Gonzalo Pineda done it? Well, he started this with Brad in the game against Cincinnati, I think for tactical reasons there, but it helped because now you're able to continue it. Gutman tucks in. The back line turns into 3 when they build up, which is typical, and again, doesn't change the formation or anything like that. It's the way the build-up phase is. So Lennon goes high on the right. Campbell is to the right. Robinson is in the middle. Gutman is to the left. It's like a 3 center back setup with Gutman as a left center back. This is when you're in possession, building up play. He can do that. And then because of that running, when they do build it up, he can then become the left back that he wants to be when the play calls for it, and he can get forward and support Caleb Wiley. He can play 2 positions, essentially. It's incredible. There's not many guys who can do that sort of thing. You look for those kinds of fullbacks. I mean, Andrew Gutman is a, Guardiola-style fullback, and that he can do a lot of different things. And he's very good on the ball, but he can get forward. He can contribute in the attacking third. I think he suits the style of play to a T. And I didn't know if he would, because we'd seen him in Cincinnati where they didn't have a style of play when he was there. And we saw him at Red Bulls, who had a style of play that is not this. I think Gutman is a great fit for this way of playing. I think he's a really smart player. Along with the hard work, I think he's just really, really smart. And he gets being able to play 2 different roles in the attacking phase, in the build-up as a center back and in the attack as a winger. He can do both. It's amazing.
Wiley Coyote on the discussion about George Campbell. I like Campbell. Hope he recovers quickly. I'm personally on the Campbell greater than Franco train, maybe not by a lot, but I think George's upside is higher and he's developing well, in my opinion.
Well, upside's higher because he's younger, and I would agree with that. But I like Alan Franco a lot. I feel like I've defended Alan Franco a whole lot over the last year. Maybe there were people who had a feeling about Alan Franco because you chased 2 other guys in front of him. I don't think that makes Alan Franco a bad center back by any stretch. I like what he brings. He's more physical. He's a little bit of a steamroller at times. He can be a little bit of that kind of physical bad boy in the back line that Miles isn't that kind of a player. Campbell's a little bit of that kind of a player. But I like Alan. I like Alan a lot. But Alan and George both have, they're Allen's not old, but they both have a tendency at times to make a mistake in a bad part of the field. They've both had those issues at different points. Generally more so from a possession standpoint, which that's the nature of the way you're going to play. You're going to ask those center backs to be brave and make passes. Sometimes they're not going to make them, and you got to deal and you got to fix it. I do think Campbell has more upside because he's got a lot more years to develop. I don't think he's anywhere near a finished product at 20 years old, and I really hope that people don't expect him to be a finished product right now. He can be a national team center back, in my opinion. And I know, I guess after he made a mistake in the game on Sunday, that's not allowed to be said, but I still say it. And credit, we talked about it offline, but Emilio was really down on Campbell after the game, one of our loyal listeners. And we traded messages talking about it. Emilio was, like, sorry, I've been hard on him. Like, no, don't be sorry for being hard or being frustrated. Like, no, like, feel the way you feel. But I got to feel the way I feel, and I'm gonna explain why I feel the way that I feel. So that's part of this back and forth. Love George Campbell's development. He had a bad day at the office. I don't think he's going to have many of those bad days. I don't think he's had many of those bad days. I didn't think coming into the season that I'd be questioning what the two center backs are for this team. I thought Campbell would be the number 3 consistently. I think he's pushed into almost a 2A, 2B situation with Allen. And that's a credit to George. And it's also a credit to Allen for setting the bar so high. And I think it's, 2 guys who can play that role next to Miles. And that's great to have. It's not easy. And that's a challenge for Gonzalo Pineda. And he's got to keep George developing and playing. And, when he doesn't play, he's got to, keep his spirits up and say, look, this isn't because you're playing bad. This isn't because of this. It's because, right now you're just a step below. We want you to improve here, here, here. And if Allen doesn't play, it's the same thing. You got to sit with him and you got to say, look, it's because George is doing X, Y, Z. We want you to do X, Y, Z a little better. It's more of a choice between the two than I thought it would be at this stage. And that's a credit to George's development. And he's got a lot more room to grow. So I'm a big George Campbell fan, huge George Campbell fan.
2 more questions having to do with the back and then a random question. So 3 more on the table before we get to news and notes.
All the above. Go for it.
Storm Chaser Kevin along the lines with Campbell. I think the issue with Campbell's how many mistakes can he be allowed to make when it hurts the team, given we didn't score in the last few games, but the question still remains.
How many mistakes has he made? First off. I mean, look, again, as I said earlier, Kevin, defenders in the way Atlanta United play are going to make mistakes. Period. Stones, Ruben Dias, Manchester City center backs, they make mistakes. Misplayed on when Vinicius dusted Fernandinho at midfield without touching the ball. Misplayed. I think it's Stones. He's got to try to deal with Vinicius first. He's dropping off to cover, and they're completely out of sync. That's a mistake. He doesn't get benched because of it. It's a mistake. You gotta teach. You gotta work to develop it. If that is the expectation going forward, that you make a mistake, you got to sit the bench. That continuity is never going to happen. It's never going to happen if that's the bar that's being set. That can't be the bar for players, especially younger players. It cannot be the bar, because he hasn't made a bunch of mistakes this season. I have to thoroughly disagree with that, and I think there's people who feel differently, and that again. I don't want to have to say this every time. I hope it becomes understood. But if I disagree, it's because what I'm seeing leads me to that belief. Doesn't make it something that nobody can ever disagree with me. I'm going to tell you if I disagree with you, and I'm going to tell you why I disagree with you, because that's what I do. That's what the show is. If every time somebody says something different than I do, and I just say, yeah, you're right. Okay. That's it. Then I have nothing, because then my beliefs mean nothing. And the show's going to be like 10 minutes. So like, I don't know what you want. I put in the work into creating, why I believe the way that I believe. And it's not just tossed off. And I do believe in it strongly, and it doesn't change overnight. It doesn't. So I don't know. I don't think Campbell's somebody who's making a ton of mistakes. I don't. I think he made a defensive mistake here. Mistakes in possession and defensive mistakes are two different things too. They're not the same thing, and they shouldn't be rated on the same scale. I don't think guys lose their spot over one mistake. I don't think Ronald Hernandez lost his spot over one mistake. I think that was already coming. I think Brooks Lennon was playing better. Brooks Lennon was playing on the wing because of injuries. Brooks Lennon was playing better and more impactful in matches than Ronald Hernandez. And Brooks Lennon was going to be the right back. That was already trending in that direction. That was not purely because Hernandez made a very bad mistake in that moment. And that mistake is not on the same scale as the mistake Campbell made losing the flight of the cross. Hernandez made a couple of mistakes in that moment against Montreal. That's why that change happened more suddenly, and it was already heading in that direction. I don't think it's heading in any direction that Alex DeJohn starts over George Campbell right now. I don't think it's heading in a direction that George Campbell doesn't start anymore this season. I do not see that and what's happened this season at all. I don't. I think he made a mistake in this game, maybe a minor second mistake in a situation that was difficult, and that's it. He's injured now, so that changes the paradigm anyway. And he's got to get healthy, and then we see what happens.
KFC liked the comparison to Philly with McKenzie and Trusty a few years back. Over time, you get a solid pair. Atlanta has other players to use too, but you invest time in George. And then Kevin, to your point,
you have to invest time in George, 100%.
He's not in the Campbell camp, but I don't dislike him. Want our best 11 out there, want to win, want nothing more for him to be better. I've seen a lot of dribbling up the field to the midfield than a bad pass for a turnover where he has to hustle to get back. I want absolutely nothing more for Campbell to develop and be a hell of a player.
But he's not going to develop if he gets benched every time he makes a mistake. And wait a minute, the part about the dribbling, is that a bad thing or a good thing? I don't understand.
I'm guessing the notion about dribbling up the field to the midfield, then a bad pass from George creates a turnover where he has to hustle to get back.
So you need your center backs to be able to dribble. This is not this is not 1980s anymore where the center backs aren't allowed to dribble. Nah, not in this style. They have to dribble. That's one way you break pressure. And George is very good at it. And listen to Gonzalo Pineda talk about George. And that's one of the things he loves about him, is that he's able to break pressure on the dribble. It's a weapon. It's not a bad thing. Again, doesn't mean every single time it works well. No. You got to do it in the times where it fits. You got to do it when, okay, you might have a little bit of cover behind you. I don't remember one time that George Campbell dribbled forward, lost the ball, and a goal was scored. I don't remember that. Probably happened sometime, and I'm not remembering it, but I don't remember it. I need center backs who can dribble in this style, 100%. But he has to play. And it's not that he plays at the expense, because that has not happened either. He has not played just to develop him. That is not the case. I hope that's not what Kevin, I hope that's not what you think the case has been here, that they're playing Campbell over better players just because that's what they want to do. That is not how it's gone down this year. Franco was suspended in game 1. And that's why I said earlier, I'm surprised that we are where we are, where it feels like 2A, 2B. Campbell played game 1 because Franco was suspended. Campbell played in the holding midfield because of the Alonso last-minute situation with the cardiac issue in Colorado. That was game 2. Game 3, he played at center back because Robinson was suspended because of a red card. After that, he played as a center back when they played 3 at one point. Was that DC? I think where they played 3 and changed to 4.
Yes.
So he played because of the tactical change. He's played because of Franco being banged up. He hasn't played just because we want to play him. And Caleb Wiley hasn't played just because we want to play him either. It's not that. These guys got to earn that time. Campbell hasn't even been in a situation where it's, well, we've got a game here that we can start him and give somebody a rest. Like, that hasn't even been the case this year. Campbell's played because he's had to, and he's done really well. And I think he's going to push Alan Franco for time because he's played really well. But it has not been a situation where you're not playing your best 11. No, that's not true.
Emilio asking a question: can young defenders not be put in a tough position in the overall flow?
Nope. Sorry, that's not the way this team's going to play. Again, it's not the olden days. You're not gonna, you can't, in the way that Atlanta United plays, protect somebody because they're young or because of this or because of that. There's no protection. There's no safety blanket. And if there is, then you're not going to get as many numbers forward. You're not going to create as much. And, then you're likely not going to score as much. It goes back to the idea that, I saw kind of come up a little bit after this game. Like, if you create less chances, that doesn't mean you're going to score more goals. If you get fewer numbers forward, it doesn't mean you're going to be a better attacking team. Like, the logic doesn't get there. Can you change the tactics and do things differently and have a different approach? Sure. That's not going to happen here, though, because they are building a way of playing that, center backs are going to be risky. And that has been there from day one. What Tata Martino wanted to do versus what Frank de Boer wanted to do versus what in interim roles Stephen Glass did, versus what Gabriel Heinze wanted to do, and Rob Valentino was seamless into Gonzalo Pineda. There's not a gigantic difference. The one time you had a manager in Atlanta play to protect anybody, it wasn't about a young player protecting, it was a lack of pace. The one time you had a manager do that, you nearly had a revolt. And whether it was the locker room, as has been written about, whether it was to that degree, whether it was the fans, whatever, the one time you changed your philosophy to protect anything, well, that wasn't good enough, even though they were winning games. So, you're not going to do it to protect a young player. If they are good enough, they're going to play. If they are not, they're not. If they don't perform well on the whole, this is not one mistake. This is on the whole. They're not performing well enough. They're going to get replaced. That's what it comes down to. But you're not going to change your philosophy. You won't. It's just not going to happen.
One more Atlanta United thought before Ricky's non-Atlanta United question, which will wrap us up. Burns hoping Caleb Wiley didn't get a concussion from his contact with DeAndre Yedlin. He thought that was a very dirty play.
I thought it was an incredibly dirty play. I was irate on the call. Yedlin lined him up. Yedlin's not getting to that ball. Yedlin hits him in the back. I thought it was cheap, really cheap. I don't know. I haven't heard any concerns about that. He did come back into the match very briefly and then come off. I didn't notice any issues with him when he came off. Didn't see anything dramatically there at that point. But because of the hit, because of the nature of it, it is something to be a little worried about. So hopefully it is nothing that lingers. But I hated the hit. I was very upset about it.
And then Ricky Ricardo's question, which will wrap us up, wants to know if you are playing War Gill, the MLS player guessing game. If not, you should.
I am not. I have not had time for guessing games lately. I'm sorry. What is it?
WOR-GIL. War Gill, War Heel, maybe? I don't know.
Okay.
So that's an MLS player guessing game that Ricky Ricardo is suggesting that you play.
Okay. Send it to me, and maybe that becomes my break time. But send it to me, please.
What's the news on the table, sir?
The news on the table, and I'm assuming there's probably a few more questions in there because I see a lot of comments, unless people are yelling at one another or yelling at me. And if they're yelling at me, tell me. That's fine. I don't mind.
No, I mean, there's a lot of discussion amongst themselves, and that's
cool. That's cool. If anybody's yelling at me, you can tell me. It's all good. I'll live. NWSL, James Clarkson suspended due to an investigation into, quote, current and historic complaints of discrimination, harassment, and abuse. He was the longest serving manager in the NWSL, and he is now suspended. It was recommended by the league and the Players Association. The team immediately suspended him. They probably, due to legal reasons, need the final report before officially deciding his future. But that's another one. Other things on the board that we have not discussed. PSG increasingly hopeful that they will keep Kylian Mbappe. They had talks with his mom last week, and his mom is a very important part of this decision for Kylian Mbappe. So they feel better after talking to the mom. So we'll see where that goes. Donny van de Beek at Manchester United, according to the Telegraph, will be given a chance by Erik ten Hag to get more playing time. Newcastle looking at Tottenham and Denmark midfielder Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, 26-year-old. He came up at Bayern, and Pep really liked him, but he was very young at that point. He's had a nice career. 26. I like him. I like him as a player. I think he's very technical. Good move for Newcastle because I think that's a good addition. It's not going to be a crazy expensive one.
Yeah.
PSG chaos all the time. They're preparing a major shakeup, I guess, if they keep Mbappe or not. They are looking to move Neymar potentially, and they're willing to listen to offers in the region of 90 million euro for him. They paid 222 in 2017. 90 million is the minimum that they'll accept, according to reports. Sky Sports is one of the people reporting this. That's the minimum that they'll allow him to leave. And if he leaves, they'll look to sign Erling Haaland or Mo Salah or Cristiano Ronaldo or whoever else comes up at that time. Sure, whatever. We'll see where that goes. Venezia fired Paolo Zanetti, 4 games to go. They're going down to Serie B, it appears. Italy, reports are stating that Abu Dhabi state-owned holding company Mubadala is involved in Milan's takeover with InvestCorp. InvestCorp is based in Bahrain. This is now a $1.18 billion deal, according to reports. Could be announced at the end of the week. Could be finalized at the end of the week and announced at the end of the season. There's a couple different ways it could play. Gazzetta dello Sport is reporting that Mubadala is involved in the deal. They have a 20% stake in InvestCorp, and the CEO of Mubadala is Khaldoun Al-Mubarak, who is the president of Manchester City. Okay, this gets interesting. Mubadala has $243 billion of assets under management, and according to Tutto Mercato Web, is pushing to finalize this deal with InvestCorp. So that adds a little layer of complexity possibly to this. But they wouldn't be the majority owner, so I don't know where that falls in UEFA rules. We've talked about this with Chelsea and potentially Atalanta with Paliuka's group. And the Chelsea bidding process, they all go into London to make their final pitches now. Is that where we're at?
Yes, and it appears that the Broughton Group wants to add a cryptocurrency.
Oh, that's good. That's going to help.
Bid. So that's the latest news. Still waiting on Rain Group to come up with their decision on the final 3.
Well, I think they're not coming up with their decision until they have their final pitches. I think that's where it's at.
Yeah.
I don't think adding cryptocurrency is going to help your pitch. But anyway, also in Italy, the FIGC has ruled now that from July 1st of this year, women's football in Italy will become fully professional. They started the process back in 2020. The Liga Serie A had opposed it. They say it was more about postponing it. They wanted more time. I don't think they opposed it because they don't want it to be professional. Let's not try to create a narrative that's not there. This is the first time that women's football in Italy will be made professional. Now, clubs have been paying players. It's not that it wasn't allowed to be professional before, but it was more along the lines of like semi-pro, whatever. Now it will be professional. It's a little bit of a designation, but you've had Juventus invest money. You've had Milan invest money. The, Serie A women's league has gotten much stronger over the years. It's still not where some of the others are, but this will help it grow even further. So we'll see what the investment looks like going forward. Barcelona, they have agreed to a new deal with Ronald Araujo of Uruguay. He came in, how long has he been there? Since he joined from Boston River in Uruguay in 2018, and now he's got a new deal through 26 with that €1 billion buyout clause attached to it. Nobody's paying that for him. That is basically you're not going to get him and just be able to pay the buyout clause and then steal him from us. You're going to have to talk to us if you want to sign him. Tomorrow, Manchester United and Chelsea, and Ralph Rangnick confirmed that Harry Maguire is out with a knee niggle. Jadon Sancho is out with tonsillitis. Fred is out. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is a doubt. Edinson Cavani out. Luke Shaw out. Paul Pogba out. That's a lot of out.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't going to be easy. And in Mexico, keep an eye on this one at Monterrey. Andoni Zubizarreta, who was formerly sporting director at Barcelona, formerly sporting director at Marseille, legendary goalkeeper. He visited Rayados recently, and he could be joining Monterrey as an advisor, maybe not a full sporting director role, but an advisor to them as they're kind of re-envisioning what they're going to do long-term going forward. They have a Vision 2030 project that they're building. They have a lot of money. They've had success. They've not had the amount of success that I think they want with the amount of money that they have. Zubi Zareta is also currently completing a master's degree at Columbia University in the U.S. Pretty smart guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he could be joining the Rayados team in some form or fashion. That's some good experience to add to the table if you're Monterrey. That's being reported down in Mexico right now. What else is on the board before we go?
A couple of quick things. Reminder from Ricky that at Providence Park tonight, very, very cool thing with the Timbers and the Thorns playing their PTFC for Peace match, a mixed teams U.S. First Division charity match to raise funds for Ukrainian children and families affected by war. 9 o'clock, admission is free. All donations matched by the club up to $100,000, and proceeds surrounding the event support UNICEF's relief efforts in Ukraine and bordering countries. Rosters are out, and you can catch that on MLS. It's a 60-minute, MLSsoccer.com. 60-minute full field match streamed on the websites at timbers.com, thornsfc.com. Friend of the network, Jake Zivin, is going to call the match alongside commentators Crystal Dunn, sideline reporters Thorns GM Karina LeBlanc, Liam Ridgewell providing live in-game updates and interviews. Very cool stuff out of Portland tonight. And also, question from Storm Chaser Kevin, is relegation, the anticipated and probable relegation of Venezia, good for Busio and Tessman, more playing time in Serie B next season?
No, it's not good for them because, I mean, more playing time possibly, but a much lower level. Tessman wasn't going to break into the national team for this World Cup. I think he could for the next one. Busio is on the borderline. Maybe it helps him, but I don't know how much it helps him being at a lower level. And Serie B is not going to be easy for them.
Mm-mm.
Not going to be easy at all for them. So I don't think it's a good thing. I think, you kind of sometimes have to be a little careful about these new kind of glamour things like Venezia was. I mean, Venezia, when they first started to get attention in the States, and it was, let's put our shirts on the bodies of influencers, and that'll make us a big club. No, it got you a lot of attention, and it did, and then they didn't quite make it, and it took a little bit of a regroup, and then they got into Serie A. But it's always going to be hard for them to stay in Serie A, and they're always going to be this back and forth, unless something dramatically changes where they get bought up by some gigantic company that can invest more money than they're going to make, because there's only so much revenue you can make there in that stadium. There's just not much. So, like, yes, it's a entry into Serie A for Busio and Tessman and the others who have been there, but it's not going to last very long. So what happens with them next? I don't know if both of them are with Venezia next year. That's the other thing is, I don't know where Venezia tries to cut costs because they're in Serie B versus Serie A, and if that means they loan these guys or that means they look to sell them. So I don't think it's a guarantee that they play a bunch of minutes in Serie B, because I don't think it's a guarantee they're there. And I also don't think it's a guarantee that playing a bunch of minutes in Serie B helps them actually improve, because I don't think Serie B is better than MLS. Nick might be mad about that, but I don't care. I don't think there's a second division league in the world. And yes, people will point to the championship because it's so wonderful and it's English, that it's better than MLS. Across the whole, I do not think it is.
Mm-mm.
I don't think it's a better place for players to develop at all. If you want to develop a certain way, sure. Across the board. There are teams that don't play that way in the championship, and there are teams that play good soccer in the championship, and they're usually the teams that are going to be yo-yos and go back and forth. But across the whole in the championship, I don't think it dramatically makes you a better player. I don't think it's dramatically a better league. I think there's a lot of garbage teams in that league. Are there garbage teams in MLS? Yeah, there are at the bottom, sure. But I think the top to bottom nature of it, that's how MLS is built the way that they're built. You don't have teams go flying away from everybody because they can spend more. They can get away a little bit. And the bottom teams are going to be closer because those teams don't get away as much. So it's more competitive across the board. I think that's better for development. I think it creates better structure. I think it's better. So at Serie B is not at the level of MLS. No, not at all.
Yeah, no, there is some absolutely painful soccer that is played in the championship.
Yeah, because it's a lower level, and it just is. And I mean, that's the nature of it. And you have a lot of haves and have-nots at that level, maybe even more dramatically at that level than at the Premier League level. So It is what it is. But I don't think Serie B makes them better, no.
Last question on the board from Modiflow, asking if we are really going to be at Brook Run Park tomorrow.
Yes, we are. We're going to be at Brook Run Park. We're hanging out with Rush Union. We will be hanging out talking soccer. We'll have plenty to talk about. Probably a lot of CONCACAF Champions League, first leg of the final, probably a good bit of Liverpool via Real. We'll talk about it in the morning too. Probably a lot of look ahead to Atlanta and Montreal. So a lot of things to talk about. We'll be at Brook Run Park. Show will start at 6:30. We'll probably get there a little bit earlier and that to get set up. But 6:30 to 8 on the Twitch. And if you want to hang out live, you can. We'll see you at Brook Run Park.
And that officially catches us up, sir. A lot of conversation with a lot of folks on the Twitch pitch amongst themselves this morning. Very, very cool.
Okay, cool. Hopefully I didn't tick everybody off. Sorry if I did. But I do not come at my opinions about the game cheaply, and it's completely fine if you disagree with them. And it's completely fine if you disagree with Mike's or John's or Jarrett's or Nick's or anybody else that we have on the show. That's the nature of the sport. I do hope that it stays respectful, and I do hope that if you disagree, you have the respect to listen to other people's takes too. That's all I ever ask for. I don't want everybody thinking the same way. Nobody learns that way. But you have to be willing to learn to, and you have to be willing to listen to both. And, you know, it's, yes, I am a bully because I have a microphone, and I'm the leader of the show because I have a microphone and I talk a lot. That's just the nature of the content and broadcast and what it is. So I can't change that. That's not about, it's not going to change. I hope that even when you disagree with me, you at least respect where I'm coming from and how I got to this point. I know there's some who don't. I know there's some who really don't care for what I have to say and how I say it and all that. And I know there's some who will then go further than all of this. And I hate that happens. But I'm not changing how I feel about the game because of that. I'm not changing. I hear you when you actually have something to say rather than just, you know, anonymous garbage out there and like, oh, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Do you actually have a point? Oh, no, you don't. Okay, cool. It's easy to say somebody else is wrong all the time without ever saying anything. I say stuff and I'm wrong sometimes. 100%, because nobody's 100% perfect about the sport. Nobody sees it the same way 100%. You can get two people who came up the same way in the game and they're going to feel differently. You can talk to two different people who have played at a high level and they're going to see a player differently. I've had these conversations. We're all passionate about this game. We're here, whether we're talking about it or we're listening to it because we love it. But along with that, I do feel, and I feel it 100% more than you guys should. I feel a responsibility to put in the work to explain my opinions and learn things about the game at all times. I'm listening to managers talk. I'm reading about history. I'm adding all these different pieces to my belief system about the sport, because I have a responsibility that if you're going to take your time to listen to the show, if you're going to take your time to interact with the show, that I give you something good rather than just rebel goal, no goal, bad. Yeah, rah, 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 rah. This sucks. This sucks. This is great. This is great. I try to give you more than that. I really try hard. That's the responsibility that I feel like I have to deliver on for you guys if you're going to spend your time with us. So I hope that even when you disagree, you understand that this is not just coming off the cuff and unprepared because I just want to be argumentative. No, the way I see the game, the way I started to believe in the game, started with watching Diego Maradona do what he did against Belgium in the semifinal in 1986 of the World Cup. That's where it started. I saw a Twitter thread going around this morning about your first memory of the World Cup. That's it. I saw Maradona do things in that game, those two goals, that I'm like, good grief, I want to do that, and I want to know how he did that, and I want to know why they're in the final, and I want to know why they play the way that they do. And those things came a little bit later. I was 9. Give me a break. That's where it started for me. that's where it's gone from me. So I have a feeling about the game, a passion about the game that comes from there initially. If it had come from, watching Germany in the semifinal and falling in love with the way they played, I'd probably have a completely different belief system about the game. But I got what I got, and I keep trying to build it. And if you disagree, that is 100% fine. I just hope that you don't, as some people have, devolve into personal attacks. I disagree, so I have to question his mental health. Or I disagree, and I have to then, say that he shouldn't be doing what he does in terms of his job. Yeah, those things have happened in the last year or so. It sucks. I hope that you guys who listen and interact understand that when we disagree, there's probably reasons about why, and that it's okay. And we'll see what happens with Atlanta United. Always going to give us something to talk about, right? That's what's great. Not boring. This isn't a team that has the expectation to just be there. This is a team with big expectations. Along with big expectations come great highs and low lows. That's what's wonderful about it. So embrace that, even when you're frustrated, even when you feel like they're not playing well, even when you disagree with a decision or disagree with my take on something. Just remember that not every club in MLS has this. And it's not about us doing what we do. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying not every club in MLS has the conversation about it because it's not the same thing. There's not the same level of expectation. There's not the same ambition. So lots of different stuff to it. Hopefully you guys enjoy your time you spend with us. I really hope you do. We try to make it enjoyable. We try to make it informative. We try to make it passionate. And that's all we can do. That's what we're here for. So if you listen and you listen to this and you're part of it, we really, really appreciate your time. And I take your time seriously. And that's why I put in hours of prep in the morning and get up early and start doing that, and want to talk about other leagues around the world too. And also want to learn more about why Gonzalo Pineda plays the way that he does and who his influences are and why he feels about the game the way that he does. And yes, that's why all that work goes in, because I take your time very seriously and we try to fill it with good content. So hopefully you enjoy it. If you hate watch it or hate listen to it, well, hopefully we're giving you something to hate to, I guess. I don't know what else to tell you. That's what we're here for. So have fun. We'll talk to you later with stoppage time at 2. We'll talk to you in the morning at 9:05. It'll be a bleary-eyed 9:05 because 10:30 tonight, Concacaf Champions League, Leg 1. And if you're a fan of the game in this country, if you're a fan of teams in Major League Soccer, if you're a fan of the game in Mexico, if you're a fan of teams in Liga MX, this is a big, big deal. Marshawn Lynch told you. It is a big deal. So take a nap if you got to. If you got to tape it, watch it in the morning, whatever you can do to be part of that conversation, because this is the biggest CONCACAF Champions League final there ever has been. And it's exciting to have this. It's exciting to have this anticipation for it. So that'll be at 10:30. I'm sure there will be conversation in the Discord channel for subscribers on the Watch Along channel. So we'll see you there, and we'll see you in the morning, and we might need an extra Red Bull in the morning for that. So y'all have a good rest of the day. Stoppage time at 2. Much platiel.
Much platiel.